الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وفهمنا اللهم إنا نسألك علما نافعا ورزقا طيبا وعملا متقبلا. So as you know, inshallah, the name of the book is Al-Arba'een Fil-Ahkām, 40 ahadith in ahkam, in the rulings of fiqh, by the author Al-Hafiz Al-Imam Al-Mundhiri rahimahullah ta'ala, who died in the year 676. He was born in Egypt, in Masjid, which was the old capital of Egypt in the Islamic rule back in the day. And he was born there, and he also died in Egypt. He studied under his father and many of the scholars of his land up until he became from the ulama. From the famous teachers that he has is Ibn Qudamah al-Maqdisi, that's of the Hanbali madhab. This Shaykh Al-Mundhiri, the author of the book, is of the Shafi'i madhab. It shows you they used to take from each other even if their madhahib in fiqh was different, because at the end, in the essence, majority of the scholars, even if their madhahib were different in fiqh, their aqidah united upon one. From his students, from the famous students that he has, is Ibn Daqiq al-Eid, the famous scholar that wrote Al-Umda, and other than that, also from students is Sharafuddin al-Timyati, and he's from the Muhaddithin, he's from the great scholars of hadith, specifically in the fan of Mustalah al-Hadith and the likes. He died in the year, as we said, 676 in Egypt. And he authored many books, specifically in the affair of Al-Arba'eenat. What is Arba'eenat? Arba'eenat is basically a genre of hadith books where they gather 40 ahadith in a specific topic and they try to compile it in that way. And so we have from the earlier books, Al-Arba'een Fil-Ahkām, for example, 40 ahadith in fasting, 40 ahadith in such and such. From the books that this author has authored alongside this book is Al-Arba'een Fil-Amr Bil-Ma'ruf Wal-Nahy Anil Munkar, 40 ahadith in commanding with the good and forbidding from evil. He's also got Al-Arba'een Fil-Ahkām that we are studying right now, amongst other books. Al-Arba'een Fil-Adab, amongst other books. Al-Arba'een in manners. Hafiz ibn Hajar, for those that know Arabic or have ihtimam bihada, he gathers a bunch of names under this genre of Arba'eenat in a book called Al-Mu'jam Al-Mufahras. So if you know Arabic and you go back to this book, Al-Mu'jam Al-Mufahras, Hafiz ibn Hajar, he mentions a bunch of books that were authored with 40 ahadith, with the asanid going back to those books. Hafiz ibn Hajar in his book Al-Mu'jam Al-Mufahras. Why did they author 40 ahadith specifically? There is a hadith, it's not authentically attributed, but the scholars benefited from the number and the idea, which was whoever memorizes 40 ahadith, then he will be raised on the Day of Judgment as a scholar. And along those lines, there's other ahadith that mention whoever memorizes 40 ahadith and he has such and such in the akhirah. None of these ahadith are authentic from the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But when the scholars saw these ahadith, they took benefit from the idea, and there's no problem. If you author a book that's 40 ahadith, that's 50 ahadith, that's 100 ahadith, there's no problem. It's just a means to making it easier to study and memorize those ahadith. So from the most famous of books that are Arba'een, that are 40, is which book? Which is the most famous book that's 40 ahadith? Arba'een An-Nawawi. To the extent that it's called Al-Arba'een An-Nawawi. It's not called in its origin Arba'een An-Nawawi, Arba'een An-Nawawiyya. It's called Al-Arba'een Fil-Mabani Wal-Ahkām, or something like this. The 40 ahadith in the usul of the religion that was written by Imam An-Nawawi, rahimahullah ta'ala rahmatan wasi'ah. Like this book, before we enter into it, the author, he has stipulated upon himself a couple of conditions. First condition is, obviously the book is based in ahkam, fiqh rulings. So fiqh rulings, they begin how to perform wudu, what water you're allowed to use for wudu, how to pray, the funeral prayer, zakah, siyam, fasting, hajj, and then it goes into business transactions, what is halal, what is haram for you to buy and sell. Then it goes into family affairs, fiqh al-usra, marriage and divorce. Then it goes into jinayat, the legal proceedings, from what is the legal punishment for someone stealing or performing zina or the likes of these affairs. This is what fiqh books are based upon. So the author, instead of gathering 300 ahadith, like Umdat al-Ahkam, 400 ahadith, or 1,300 like Bulugh al-Maram by Ibn Hajar and Al-Muharrar by Ibn Abdul Hadi. What he did was he just collected 40 ahadith in this topic of ahkam, 40 ahadith. And he stipulated that these 40 ahadith must be from either Bukhari and Muslim. Sahih Bukhari or Sahih Muslim. What is Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim? Let's get some brothers on this side. What is Sahih Bukhari? English.
The most authentic books.
Ahsan Allah ilayk. The most authentic book after the Quran is a book called Sahih Bukhari. What is Sahih Bukhari? Sahih Bukhari is a book that gathers the ahadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his actions, his statements, and his affirmations. Gathered it in a book, and it became the most authentic book after the Quran. Then another scholar came, which is the student of Imam Bukhari. His name is Imam Muslim. He authored his Sahih, his authentic book, where he gathered the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. So if we say this was narrated by Al-Imaman or Al-Shaykhan, or Hadha fi Sahihain, or this is in the Sahihain, the two authentic books, or it was narrated by the two scholars, what is being referred to is the two books that were written by Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim in both of their Sahihs. So this author, Imam Mundhiri, these 40 ahadith has to be in one of these two books. He made it a condition that he will only get 40 ahadith from these two books, Bukhari and Muslim. So you won't find a hadith in here that is outside of Bukhari and Muslim. Is that clear? Imam Mundhiri as well, he was a hafiz, a great memorizer, and so he authored majority of his books from memory. Majority of the books of Imam Hafiz al-Mundhiri, they were written imla'an min hifdhihi. It was written down from his memory. And so sometimes you might find that the wording might differ a little bit from that which is in the original book, so you need to double check. Or hatta fil azu, when it goes back to mentioning which number or the likes, there might be a slight differing, but majority of it is correct. He's got another book called Mukhtasar Sahih Muslim, summary of Sahih Muslim, the same thing. He amlahu min hifdhihi, they writ it down from his memory. طيب. Let's go into the book inshallah ta'ala. So our tariqah inshallah in the book is we're going to read the Arabic we're going to read the Arabic text first, and then we'll explain the English بما يناسب المقام. Just to mention quickly, we did mention that there's going to be ijazah for the book for whoever attends both sittings. So this is part 1, and Sunday is going to be part 2. You need to register for it inshallah ta'ala. So the link you can find it on Twitter, or you can ask Abbas, inshallah, our brother Abbas sitting here at the front, and he can give you the link afterwards inshallah, or take your details. So you need to attend both lessons in order to get the ijazah. If you attend one only, then you still get the ijazah, but it will be written that you only attended that one sitting. طيب. بسم الله. الحديث الأول عن عبد الله بن عمر رضي الله عنهما قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا تقبل صلاة بغير طهور ولا صدقة من غلول. The first hadith, the Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم, he said, no salah is accepted without tuhur, and no sadaqah, charity, is accepted from ghulul. I'll mention what tuhur and ghulul means in a second. No salah is accepted without tuhur, and no sadaqah, charity, accepted from ghulul. So this hadith, it comprises of two things, and akhrajahu Muslim. This hadith, first of all, is narrated or reported in Sahih Muslim alone. It's narrated in Sahih Muslim. So in this hadith, there's two affairs. Mas'alatan. Al-mas'alatul ula, regarding the prayer. La salata, there is no prayer for a person who doesn't have tuhur. This nafi, negation, there is no prayer, here is talking about nafyul qabul, that this prayer is not accepted from Allah at all, completely, without tuhur. Tuhur is purification, that a person has wudu and ablution. La salata bighayri tuhur. So if a person prays a salat that is faridah, like Salat al-Asr right now, and they don't have wudu, their salah is accepted or not accepted? It's not accepted. And what do they have to do? They have to pray again. But before they pray again, they have to make wudu and then pray again. طيب, what if I want to pray a sunnah prayer? I've prayed the obligatory prayer, and now I want to pray a nafilah, and I don't have wudu, and I pray. What is upon me? Is my salah accepted or not? It's not accepted. What's upon me? I have to go perform wudu again and pray that nafilah again. That salah is not accepted at all. So when the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam says sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says la salata, he negates, there is no prayer without tuhur. This nafi, this negation right here means the action is not accepted at all, and he has to do that again. Whether it is an obligatory prayer or it is a voluntary prayer, whether it was on purpose, he purposely prayed without wudu, or it is sahwan, he accidentally prayed without dhuhr, without ablution. Either way, he has to perform wudu again and pray again. The salah is not accepted. But there are times when the nafi, the negation, it doesn't mean that the salah is completely rejected and you have to pray again. There is a second type of negation sometimes, which is nafyun lil kamal wa thawab. That is a negation of any reward for that person, or it's a negation of the perfection of that prayer. So we have, for example, the Prophet ﷺ, he mentions in many ahadith. From them is the hadith where the Prophet ﷺ, he said, لا يقبل الله صلاة مسبل إزاره. Allah will not accept the prayer of someone who does isbal of his izar. What does isbal of izar mean? That means a person who drags their garment up until it touches the floor. If your garment, your lower garment, your trousers, your thobe, anything that you're wearing touches the floor, it goes underneath your ankle, then that's called isbal, and the person who performs that is called a musbil. So if a person prays in salah and his thobe or trousers or whatever he's wearing drags underneath the ankle, the Prophet ﷺ, he said his prayer is not accepted. But this acceptance here, or this negation here, is not talking about nafyun li wujud al-amal. That is negation of that action being accepted in totality. Rather, it's a negation of receiving any reward. So that person, their prayer is correct, the prayer is accepted, but that person gets zero reward. That person gets no reward. Is that clear? So this negation now, does he have to pray again? Huh? طيب, I'll say one more time. The example is now someone is wearing trousers or a thobe that goes below their ankle. So that person is a musbil. The Prophet ﷺ, he says, whoever prays in a state of isbal, his izar, his lower garment is underneath his ankle, then Allah will not accept his prayer. This negation, we said, is a negation of any thawab, of any reward. So does that mean his salah is completely rejected and he has to pray again? Or what does it mean? So what does he have to do right now?
So his salah is like correct, meaning
Ahsant.
he doesn't have to do it again.
Ahsant.
He doesn't get the reward.
Ahsant. So his salah is correct. He doesn't have to pray again. If he prayed Asr in that state, ajza'athu, it will remove any sin from his neck in terms of having to repeat that prayer. So he doesn't have to repeat that prayer, but he doesn't get reward. Is that clear? Likewise, the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says, لا يقبل الله صلاة من كان في جوفه خمر. Allah will not accept the prayer of someone who has alcohol inside of them. Someone who drinks alcohol and takes alcohol and is inside of them and they pray, then their prayer is accepted, but they will have no reward for that sin. وهكذا, the Messenger, where he says, من أتى كاهنا أو عرافا لم تقبل له صلاة 40 يوما. Whoever comes to a soothsayer or a fortune teller then Allah will not accept for him his salah, his prayer for 40 days. For 40 days his salah will not be accepted. The ulama, they all say, even though his salah is not going to be accepted for 40 days, he still has to pray for 40 days. And after those 40 days, he doesn't have to make up that prayer. Is that clear? He doesn't have to make up that prayer for 40 days. His salah is not going to be accepted, meaning he will have no reward for it. But he doesn't have to repeat that salah. So there's something dangerous. May Allah Azza wa Jal accept our prayers and remove us from this. طيب. المسألة الثانية. So is that clear? The first mas'ala is pretty easy. You cannot pray without tahara, without purification, without wudu. And if you do so, whether knowingly or unknowingly, you have to pray again. Is that clear? طيب الثانية المسألة الثانية, the second issue here is ولا صدقة من غلول. There is no sadaqah, there's no charity accepted from ghulul. Sadaqah, everyone knows what charity is, that is some money that you give for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal, seeking nearness to Him. From ghulul, ghulul is the money or an item from the spoils of war that has been stolen before it was given out. So let's say there is a war between Muslims and non-Muslims that is legitimate under a Muslim ruler. Okay, it's got all the conditions, because war and jihad has got conditions. We're not here to talk about that right now. I don't want anyone going to ISIS or the likes and saying, yeah, I'm going to get my spoils of war and I'm not going to get no ghulul. Like, ISIS and the likes of them, Boko Haram and Al-Shabaab and the likes, are from the Khawarij, and it's not jihad shar'i. It's not a legitimate jihad, that which they do from killing innocent civilians, men, women and children and the likes. So I don't want no one going to those places of fitna. The only jihad is jihad under a legitimate Islamic ruler, a Muslim ruler, with the conditions met. From the conditions is that your parents have to give you permission to attend jihad with the Prophet ﷺ. And so he said, I left my parents crying. The Messenger never said to him, okay, perform your jihad, then go back. Look, the Prophet ﷺ said to him, go back to your parents and make them laugh just as you made them cry. Go back to your parents and make them laugh just as you have made them cry. Allahu Akbar. طيب. Ghulul is, as we said, the war has finished, the Muslims have won, they have spoils of war. There's wealth that they gained, there's maybe items, a sword, a horse, things that they gained after winning the war. They're called the spoils of war or booty, war booty. This war booty has to be given to the ruler, and then the ruler gives it out to and distributes it to those that deserve it. Okay? If a person before that distribution takes something for himself, then that is called ghulul. هذا الرجل غلة. This person, he fell into the action of stealing. And so if a person that stole that thing wants to give charity from that thing that he has, So here the Messenger ﷺ, he taught them 4 adab. Arba'at adab when it comes to the toilet. The first adab is ألا نستقبل القبلة بغائط أو بول. That the Messenger ﷺ, he prohibited us from facing the qibla when we are using the toilet. So if you're doing a number 1 or number 2, feces or urinating, you're not allowed to face the qibla, nor show your back to the qibla. Rather, you face the other way. That's the first thing. We're gonna ثلاثة أحجار. That we do not do istinja. If we don't have water and we're using rocks or pebbles, then we don't use less than 3 rocks and pebbles. And lastly, if we have to, if we don't have rocks or the likes, enough rocks, we're not allowed to use the dung of an animal, nor bones. And we're going to talk about each one in a second. So the first adab is ألا نستقبل القبلة بغائط أو بول. That we do not face the qibla when we are doing a number 1 or a number 2. Everyone knows number 1 is, number 2 is. ما يحتاج. Then the ulama, they differed. As the brother asked, what if I'm inside a building and the toilet is already fixed in a certain direction, and that direction might be the qibla? What do I do then? What do I do? You sit awkwardly on this side and stand in the... Okay. Alhamdulillah, the Prophet ﷺ, it's been narrated from him in hadith of Ibn Umar, that in the house of Aisha radiallahu anha, inside the house, inside walls, or what is similar to walls, he faced the qibla. And so the ulama, because of this hadith of Ibn Umar, this other hadith by Ibn Umar, where he in the house of Aisha, Hafsa radiallahu anha, he faced the qibla when he was using the toilet. They say there's a difference between being inside a building where there's walls and being out in the open. So being out in the open when there's no walls around you, then you don't face the qibla. Okay? So now you're out in the desert, or you're trekking, or you're on a long walk, and you can't find a toilet. There's no toilet near you. The nearest toilet is an hour away, and you have to use the toilet. Then you go somewhere where no one can see you, and you do not face the qibla because you're out in the open. So out in the open, you're not allowed to face the qibla. Whereas inside the houses, then it is allowed, as we take from this other hadith. But it is still recommended to not face the qibla if you can. I'm not saying if the toilet is already fixated, then we're not talking about that. I'm saying if you become, mashallah, a wealthy person and you build a house or back home and you're house where the toilet doesn't face the qibla, but it is allowed to face the qibla as the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he himself did. Is that clear? That's number 1. Number 2, ألا نستنجي باليمين, that we do not cleanse ourselves. You finish using the toilet, okay. Did a number 1 or a number 2. Now you need to clean yourself. Which hand do you clean yourself with? The left hand. And you're allowed to use your right hand. The Messenger ﷺ specifically prohibited us from using our right hand. Everything that was good, the Prophet ﷺ would use his right hand. وَكَانَ يُعْجِبُهُ التَّيَمُّنْ, and he would love the right side for everything that is good, whether it's putting on clothes, putting on shoes, stepping into the masjid. The likes always start with your right. And anything that was the opposite of that, something filthy or something that is not tayyib, he would use the left, whether left hand or the left side. So walking out of the masjid, the khair is going into the masjid. Going out and you have to go out, he would go out with his left. Going into the toilet where you can't remember Allah and you're going to be doing number 1, number 2, you enter with your left. And everything that is similar to it, you do with your left. And so likewise, when you're cleansing yourself and you're doing mubashara, you're actually touching this feces or the likes that you have to cleanse yourself from, you do it with your left. And you're prohibited from using your right. And it's narrated from some of the Sahaba that they will even say, ما مست يميني ذكري, that my right hand has not touched my private part since I gave allegiance to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Since I made allegiance to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, my right hand hasn't even touched my private part, let alone cleaning myself with the right hand. طيب. And there's a hadith as well that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam prohibited from touching your private part with your right hand. طيب. Number 3. Now you don't have water and you need to use rocks, pebbles, or that which is similar to it, like tissues, then you're not allowed to use less than 3. So you have to use 3 or more. 3 or more. If you can't find 3, then 2 is sufficient. Because فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ, fear Allah as much as you're able.
Is that only when you're cleaning the
No, it's both. Yeah. Ahsant. And lastly, وَأَلَّا نَسْتَنْجِيَ بِرَجِيعٍ أَوْ عَظْمٍ, that you don't cleanse yourself with the dung of an animal. So that the animal, when he does number 2, feces, and it becomes hard, it's called a dung. That dung that becomes hard, which is, you could say, is similar to a rock, because it's solid, you're not allowed to use that, because it's najisun, it's impure. And you're not allowed to clean impure with impure. Okay? Or admin, nor you're not allowed to use bones. So if a person has some KFC bones, and he's on a long journey, he's got no water, got no tissue, he's got no rocks, he's got no nothing, is he allowed to use the KFC bones? You're not allowed to use it. Why? Because the bones, the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says that the bones, Allah Azza wa Jal will put meat on there لِإِخْوَانِكُم مِّنَ الْجِنِّ, for your brothers from the jinn. So even though we can't see it, the jinn, Allah Azza wa Jal made it food for them. So they eat afterwards, they eat from that bone. And so if they're going to eat from it and it's muhtaram, you're not allowed to cleanse your impurity with it, because you'll spoil their food. And with that, they do ilhaq of any type of food or anything that is muhtaram. So you're not allowed to use, anything else that's food, that's hard, that a person would think that they can use to cleanse themselves. They're not allowed to use it because it's food, something that someone eats. Is that clear? So 4 adab, those are the 4 adab. Number 1, quickly, you're not allowed to face the qibla, and this is talking about if you're inside a building. You're not allowed to cleanse yourself with the right hand. You're not allowed to use less than 3 rocks, pebbles, or tissues when you're cleansing yourself. And lastly, you're not allowed to cleanse yourself with bones or with dung. طيب. Next hadith number 4. عن عبد الله بن زيد بن عاصم الأنصاري رضي الله عنه وكانت له صحبة قال قيل له توضأ لنا وضوء رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فدعا بإناء فأكفأ منه على يديه فغسلهما 3 ثم أدخل يده في الإناء فاستخرجها فتمضمض واستنشق من كف واحد ففعل ذلك 3 ثم أدخل يده في الإناء فاستخرجها فغسل وجهه 3 ثم أدخل يده في الإناء فاستخرجها فغسل يديه إلى المرفقين مرتين ثم أدخل يده في الإناء فاستخرجها فمسح برأسه فأقبل بيديه وأدبر ثم غمس بسبابتيه وإبهاميه في الإناء فمسح أذنيه ظاهرهما وباطنهما ثم غسل رجليه إلى الكعبين ثم قال هكذا كان وضوء رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. This hadith was narrated by Abdullah ibn Zayd ibn Asim al-Ansari radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, and it's talking about sifatu wudu' Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the description of how the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam did wudu'. So we read the English. Abdullah ibn Zayd ibn Asim al-Ansari, who was a companion of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, it was said to him, perform for us the ablution, the wudu', just like the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam did. And so Abdullah ibn Zayd, he called for a vessel of water and poured water from it on his hands and then washed his hands 3 times. Then he inserted his hands into the vessel and he brought it out and he did madmada and istinshaq. Cleanse his mouth and then nose. Madmada and istinshaq from the palm of one hand, doing that 3 times. So he did that in one go. You're allowed to do it 3 separate goes. So you're allowed to take the water, do your mouth, get water, do your mouth, then do your nose, do your nose, do your nose. You're allowed to do that. Or you can combine between them, and that's easier and better. Okay, so he got the water 1 time, and he did his mouth and his nose. Is everyone clear? You with me? You have a question? You looked at me like you didn't understand it. Like this. Any questions? طيب. فمضمض واستنشق. So he did مضمض and istinshaq from one palm 3 times. He then again inserted his hands into the water. Then he washed his face. Then he washed his arms up until the elbows twice. Then he inserted his hands and he wiped his head from the front to the back. Then he washed his feet, including the ankles, and then he said, this is how the Messenger ﷺ performed ablution. So his statement, تَوَضَّأْ لَنَا, a man came to him and said to him, perform for us, show us how the Messenger ﷺ did wudu. Show us how the Messenger ﷺ did wudu. This is how the Salaf were. They used to ask about that which concerns them and that which is important to them. Today, if someone was to ask a shaykh or a teacher, "Oh teacher, show me how the Prophet ﷺ did wudu." Perhaps the teacher might say, "You don't know how to make wudu? Even our children know how to make wudu. You don't know how to make wudu?" Like in the Salaf, they weren't like this. The Salaf, they would get happy and they would ask about the most important of affairs. Wudu, you have to perform it every single day. Here I have a Sahabi in front of me that met the Messenger ﷺ. Let me ask him exactly how the Messenger ﷺ did wudu. And so he did so. And it went through 1,000 years of being narrated, and that one tabi'i that asked that question will get the reward for everyone that performs wudu properly. So then he called for a bowl of water and he performed wudu in front of them. And if the time allowed, I would have got a bowl of water and showed you, because it's easier to show than to explain. Okay? But the time doesn't allow. So he would, first of all, wash his hands 3 times. ثُمَّ أَدْخَلَ يَدَهُ فِي الْإِنَاءِ ثُمَّ. This word ثُمَّ, and then, it shows that the tartib, that following this order, washing your hands first, then washing your mouth and nose, then washing your face, then, is obligatory. It is obligatory. The thumma shows that the tartib here is obligatory. And the Prophet ﷺ, he did muwadhaba ala dhalik. He would constantly perform it in this order. And that again shows us something that the Messenger ﷺ would constantly do, and it's not being narrated that he did anything besides it. It shows that it is obligatory. طيب. So a person washes their hand first 3 times, and this is sunnah. If a person leaves it out, then his wudu is still correct, but it is sunnah recommended to wash your hands first, except in one scenario. Who knows? Hands up. Say again? طيب najasa, there's a najasa in your, okay, ahsant. Like I wanted something else. There's one scenario where you have to wash your hands. Filth. There's filth, we said yes, but I'm looking for something else. Ahsant. Jazakallah khair. What did we say? إِذَا اسْتَيْقَظَ أَحَدُكُمْ. If one of you wakes up, then you cannot put your hands in water up until you wash your hands 3 times. So washing your hands 3 times before you do wudu after waking up is obligatory. That's the only time it's obligatory. Okay, so you wash your hands 3 times. Then you did madmada and istinshaq. You get water for your mouth, you rinse your mouth and your nose. And to do it with 1 palm of water is better and easier as well. And you save time as well and water. So you get the water, you don't let go of the water, you put it in your mouth, then you put it into your nose. Spit out the water from your mouth and get the water out from your nose.
Is there something about blowing with your left hand?
No, I'm not sure. Istinthar, the last part of getting out, is is sunnah as well. طيب. Questions? No questions. طيب after
where it says وكانت له صحبة, will that be whoever the narrator or the Imam?
Ahsant. So one of the narrators will say وكان له صحبة, or Imam Muslim said it. يعني he saw the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he had companionship. Ahsant. طيب, after doing madmada and istinshaq, then you wash your face. Where does your face begin and where does it end? So the face is from ear to ear, and from the top of your forehead to the bottom of your chin. And if you got bidar and you got a little hair like me, then you don't go all the way down here and start from here. From the top of your forehead until your chin. And is your beard included? Yes, your beard is included in the washing. Okay. So that's your face. You have to wash your face, and he did so 3 times. 3 times again is the sunnah. Once is the minimum. Then you wash your arms 3 times. Where does arms begin from? Huh? Huh? Ahsant. What do you say? Tip of the fingers, not the wrist. Arms from the wrist, no? That's a major mistake that a lot of people fall into. Washing the arms or the hands here does not begin from the wrist. It begins from the tip of your fingers all the way to your elbows, including your elbows. Okay? But you go all the way to the tip of your fingers. Somebody asks, I wash my hands at the beginning, why do I need to wash my hands again? Malik, you know already. You know already. You guys are here for that. Let's ask other people.
Because of Surat al-Ma'idah.
Huh?
Surat al-Ma'idah.
Ahsant, like now he says, okay, I washed my hands at the beginning of wudu. Why do I have to wash it again now?
Because the first one was not obligatory.
Ahsant.
The second one is.
Ahsant. Because the first time when you're washing your hands, it's sunnah. If you don't wash your hands, your wudu is still correct. But now washing your hands is obligatory. And it starts from the tip of your fingers. Is that clear? So he washed his hands, including the elbows, 3 times. Then he...
Ustad, what if you have you broke your arm and your arm is in a sling?
Ahsant, that's got different ruling. Okay, you don't have to wash it if it's going to harm you and the likes. You can do tayammum over it and the likes. There's different ruling for that, inshallah. طيب. So you, after washing your arms, including your elbows, then you wipe over your head. Notice Allah Azza wa Jal, He says in the ayah and the Prophet ﷺ here, they did a difference between ghusl and masah. They did a difference between washing and wiping. What's the difference between the two? The first, washing, is that you get the water in your hands and you don't let go of the water. So if I'm washing my mouth and nose, I've got the water, I don't let go of the water, I put it in my mouth, I put it in my nose. Washing my face, I don't let go of the water. Washing my arms, I don't let go of the water. It goes straight into my arms. And the sign that you're washing is, it's going to drip. Right? You got a lot of water, you put in your arm, it's going to drip. You put it in your face, it's going to drip. Wiping though, you get the water and you let go of the water. Whatever's left in your hand, you wipe over your head. From the top to the back to the front. Is that clear? Wiping is you let go of the water. Whatever's left, you wipe over. طيب. Wiping, if I wipe over now, should it be dripping? No. There's a difference between washing and wiping.
You mentioned that the beard is also washed.
Yeah.
Just like wiping over.
Washing. So you put it in and you wash it. Okay? So they say whatever is washed and whatever is mustarsil minhu has to be washed as well.
When you wipe your head, does it also include your
Ahsant, yes. Okay. Jazakallah khair. So now we're going to wiping.
Regarding to the beard, does it have to touch the skin? The water have to touch the skin, or is it sufficient if it's the major part of the beard?
La, you just put it like that.
Here.
Yeah. So the beard.
Inside.
وكله. Yeah.
If you have longer hair, you have to put your hands through your hair or just wipe over.
No, wipe. So you're not washing. Okay. Okay. طيب. In this, who's got the book? Anyone got the book? Is following Mundhiri?
Yeah, on the phone.
On the phone. Anyone else? Is it English or Arabic? طيب. if anyone does go to see the Arabic, هناك زيادة بين قوسين. شفته؟ ثم غمس بسبابتيه وإبهاميه في الإناء. هذا ليس موجود في صحيح مسلم. قد يكون من نساخ أو قد يكون الشيخ أخطأ لأنه أملاه من حفظه، فهذا ليست في صحيح مسلم. ولما أخذنا هذا الكتاب مع الشيخ سليمان الرحيلي لم يشرح هذه الجملة، تركها، فانتبه. أبشر. ثم غمس بسبابتيه وإبهاميه في الإناء فمسح ظاهرهما وباطنهما. I don't want to say in English because it's going to confuse you. You don't have the book, don't worry about it. No, it's okay. No, it's fine. Al-An is hadith ahkam, so we're just trying to benefit from the hadith itself. Okay? So the madhab is fine. Any of them that we follow, كلهم في خير. طيب. Allah يبارك فيك. طيب. Then he said, there's a part in the original book that's not part of Sahih Muslim. So I just wanted to let the brothers know that do have the book that are following Arabic, that's not in Sahih Muslim. But as for you guys, don't worry about it. ثم غسل رجليه إلى الكعبين ثم قال هكذا كان وضوء رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Then he washed his feet including his ankles. He washed his feet including his ankles. Then he said, this is how the Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم performed wudu. This is how he performed wudu. And so if you learn, apply. The whole point of studying is to apply it in your daily life. Okay? Did we not say it? Oh, we skipped it, yeah? Jazakallah khair. So you wipe your head to the back to the front, and you put your fingers inside your ear, and you wash the outside as well. Is that clear? Do you take different water for it? No, you take one water for it. أخرجه البخاري. Muslim is narrated in Bukhari and Muslim. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam.
How was it able to wash 3 times when they only put the hands and utensils?
When? Wash your face?
Yeah, or the feet. Is it hands more than the utensils 3 times and wash it 3 times? Or is it just once?
No, that's specifically for the mouth. So you do the mouth and nose same time, but you do it 3 different times. Instead of doing the mouth separately 3 times and then the nose separately 3 times, you do it together. That's what I meant. Because every other time you get the water 3 times for your head, washing your face. Okay?
So if a brother has a long hair, like he has long hair and he ties it up, and then he does masawat, does it suffice? Like
Yeah.
you have to open the hair.
No. But praying, you need to for the salah. But for wudu, you just wipe over it, front to the back. Okay? It's not about reaching the roots. Okay? Last question.
What's the ruling with wiping the feet?
We're gonna come to it, inshallah. طيب. I wanted to mention something. طيب, lastly, in here he says that he washed his arms marratain. He washed his arms 2 times. And so everything else he said 3 times, except for obviously wiping, which is 1 time. But washing the arms, he said twice. So it's sunnah, it's from the ways to do as well, that you do sunnah everything 3 times and you do your arms twice. Okay? Is that clear? And that this wudu that the Sahabi did doesn't negate any other narrations when the Messenger of Allah did wudu. Sometimes he did it 1 time, sometimes he did it 2 times, sometimes he did it 3 times all over. Sometimes he washed his hands at the beginning, maybe he didn't wash his. It doesn't negate. You don't say this is the only way to do wudu. Okay? لا ينافي الروايات الأخرى. طيب, الحديث الخامس, the 5th hadith. عن شريح بن هانئ رضي الله عنه قال أتيت عائشة رضي الله عنها أسألها عن المسح على الخفين فقالت عليك بابن أبي طالب فسله فإنه كان يسافر مع رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فسألناه فقال جعل رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم 3 أيام ولياليهن للمسافر ويوما وليلة للمقيم. Shuraih ibn Hani, he said, I came to Aisha radiallahu anha to ask her about wiping over the socks. She said, it's better that you go and ask Ali ibn Abi Talib, for indeed he used to travel with the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So we went, Shuraih said, we went and we asked Ali, and so he said, the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam stipulated the limit of 3 days for the traveller and 3 nights. 3 days and 3 nights for the traveller and 1 day and 1 night for the residents. So this is now talking about Mas' al-Khuffayn, wiping over your socks. It's talking about wiping over your socks. So in this hadith there is أن المفتي يرشد السائل إلى من هو أعلم منه في المسألة ويدل ذلك على سلامة قلوبهم من الحسد. In this hadith, when he came and asked Aisha radiallahu anha, she said to him, go to so and so, go to Ali ibn Abi Talib, because he has more knowledge of this affair, because he used to travel with the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So if you're traveling a lot, what do? You wipe over your socks. So he's going to have more knowledge of that. So in it is that a person who has knowledge guides a person to someone more knowledgeable than him in a specific issue. And in it as well, that a person is supposed to have salamatul qalb. His heart is supposed to be pure from having hasad and envy to other scholars. So Aisha radiallahu anha, she didn't say, I'm not going to tell him to go to the other scholar. I'm going to answer. If I know it, I don't know it, la. And in it is also to be humble. If you don't know, then you say, I don't know. Or you guide them, as we said, to someone more knowledgeable. And also we can benefit from this hadith that knowledge is something that is mushtarak bayn al-rijali wal nisa. Knowledge is something that is shared between men and women. It's not something specific to men. Only men can study, only men can read, only men can write, like some of the other religions, like Christianity back in the day and some of the other religions. They would do manna and forbid their women folk from being involved in writing the Bible or having any involvement in the Bible and the likes. As for us, Islam, al-ilm maftuh lil-jami', and seeking knowledge is upon both the man and the woman. And so we have scholars that are male, we have scholars that are female. And Aisha radiallahu anha is from amongst those scholars. So we have mufti and we have muftiyat. Mufti is a male scholar that you ask fatwa for and questions, and muftiyat is a female scholar that you go and ask questions. And so the tabi'een, they used to go and ask Aisha radiallahu anha behind a curtain. They used to ask her behind a curtain. طيب. In this hadith there is مشروعية المسح على الخفين. There is the legislation of wiping over your socks. And the limit for that is if a person is a traveler, then they can wipe over their socks for 3 days and 3 nights. And for someone that is resident, that is not traveling, then they can wipe over their socks for a day and a night. طيب. What does this mean? How do I wipe over my socks? Do I wipe under the sock because it's more dirty? Do I wash my socks, make it completely wet? Or what does it mean?
So basically you don't have the water in your hands because it's like
Ahsant. So you get the water, you let go of the water, just like when you're wiping your head, and then you wipe your socks, the top of your socks, not the bottom. Ali, the same Sahabi, Ali ibn Abi Talib, he said, لو كان الدين بالرأي, if the religion was through opinion and intellect, you just use your intellect for everything in the religion, لكان أسفل الرجل أولى من أعلى, أو كما قال. He said that if the religion was by way of intellect and your opinion, then the bottom of your foot would have been more deserving of being wiped than the top. Why? Because logically speaking, if you're using your head, what's going to be more dirty, the top of your foot or the bottom? The bottom. Khalas, I'm going to wipe the bottom because it's more dirty. That's using a logic. But the religion is not through logic. The religion is through istislam lil wahi. It's by submitting to the revelation. Allah said, the Messenger sallallahu said. So the Messenger sallallahu he taught us to wipe above, we wipe above. Do we know the reason why? We don't need to know the reason why. The Prophet said, yakfi, istislam. طيب, I want to say something else. It's gone. wipe over them right first and left? Huh? Same time? Huh? Doesn't matter. طيب, there's both opinions. So some ulama they say you do both at the same time. قياسا على الرأس, doing analogy on the head. When you wipe your head, you do all of it one time. And others say no, you do your right first and your left. And the qiyas is not sahih because the origin of washing your feet, when you're washing your feet, you wash feet together or the right first and the left. So they said because the feet originally when you're washing it, you wash the right foot first, then the left foot. Then likewise when you're wiping, you wipe over the right foot, then the left foot. And whichever you do, both is fine.
So what is the ruling on when to be able to wipe over your foot? You have to have wudu after.
Ahsant, Jazakallah khair. And so, ahsant. What is the condition for masah al-khuffayn to be correct? Wiping over your socks to be correct. You have to put the socks on whilst you have a wudu where you wash your feet first. So let's say you woke up in the morning for Salat al-Fajr, you did wudu, you washed your feet. Okay? After you washed your feet, you put your socks on. You put your socks on. Like a couple hours later, you broke your wudu. You had your socks on, you broke your wudu. You went to perform wudu. Are you allowed to wipe over your socks or not? You're allowed to wipe over your socks because you put your socks on when you had wudu. Like, second scenario. I made wudu, I washed my feet, I prayed Salat al-Fajr, I went back to sleep. My wudu's broken again. I woke up, I don't have wudu, I put my socks on to go to school or work. I'm at work now, and I put the socks on when I didn't have wudu, and now I need to perform wudu. Am I allowed to wipe over the socks? Yes or no? No. Why? Why? Because you put your socks on when you didn't have wudu. So the condition is you have to put the socks on when you have wudu, then later you can wipe over it. There was a question over there.
What about shoes?
So the shoes, there is a hadith that has been authenticated by Abu Hassan al-Qattan, where the Messenger ﷺ, it said that he wiped and he allowed the wiping over the shoes. Wiping over the shoes. So there is a narration that mentions that. Ahsant. And the socks have to be above your ankles as well. You can't wear ankle socks. You can't have socks underneath your ankle and wipe over it. Huh? If there's no water, there's something else you do. And we'll talk about it later, okay? Ahsant. Last question.
So, what if your whole day has passed, so you wore your socks last night, and now this night you do wudu again, you take off your socks. After you do wudu, you do the wudu, does the day start again?
Yes. So if you make wudu with washing, then you put your socks on again. This is just a new wiping you got for another 24 hours. But when does those 24 hours start? 24 hours starts, in the most correct opinion, from the time you wipe over your socks, not the time you break your wudu. So quick example, and we've got a short time. You woke up for Fajr, you made wudu, you put your socks on, whilst having wudu that you washed your feet from before. Then straight after the salah, you let go of gas. That's it, your wudu is gone. But you have socks on, remember. At dhuhr time, I remembered I broke my wudu and I want to make wudu right now. I wipe over my socks. When does the 24 hours begin? From the time I put the socks on, or from the time I broke wudu, or from the time I first used it, the first time I wiped it? Malik, I know you know. Let's give these other guys a chance. Hassan. No. So out of the 3 times, it's not when you break your wudu. Sorry, it's not when you put your socks on the first time. It's not when you break your wudu. It's when you first use it, the first time you wipe over your socks. Your 24 hours begins from the first time you used it. Then 24 hours for the residents. And if you're a traveler, 3 days. And that's the ease that Allah Azza wa Jal has given you, okay? And last question.
Sorry. If I have made my order, I wipe on my socks, and maybe 2 hours after I
Take socks off.
Take off my socks. I still have my wudu, or I have
Ahsant.
to take my wudu.
طيب, I have wudu, I take my socks off. I didn't break my wudu, I just took my socks off. Does it break my wudu? In some of the madhahib they say yes, just taking off the socks breaks your wudu. But what's most correct, wallahu a'lam, is that it doesn't break your wudu. It's not a naqid, it's not from the nullifiers of wudu. بعدين ask me later. طيب, واضح الجواب؟ Clear? Yeah. حديث السادس. طيب, عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إذا جلس بين شعبها الأربع ثم جهدها فقد وجب عليه الغسل. وعند مسلم فقد وجب الغسل. So in this hadith we have the Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم where he said, the Messenger ﷺ, he said, if a person who is married, this is for married people, if a person is married and they sit between their wife, شعبها الأربع, the 4 points, ثم جحدها, then he enters her, فقد وجب عليه الغسل, then it becomes obligatory upon him to perform ghusl from janaba. So in here, بين شعبها الأربع ثم جهدها is, the maqsood of it is كناية عن الجماع. It's a metaphor for intercourse between a man and his wife. طيب, حتى جهدها meaning up until, because there's kids here, up until it's understood. But it has to be complete intercourse. Inshallah, understand. فقد وجب عليه الغسل. Then it's obligatory upon him to perform ghusl. طيب, if a person does so but no mani comes out, the white water doesn't come out, is it upon him, nothing came out, does he still have to perform ghusl? Yes, this hadith is talking about just doing the intercourse alone, even if nothing came to the end, even if he got rushed and he had to go out, then he still has to perform ghusl. With the mere entering, then he has to perform ghusl. Is that clear? أخرجه البخاري Muslim, is narrated in Bukhari, reporting Bukhari Muslim. The next hadith, hadith number 7. عن ميمونة زوج النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم رضي الله عنها قالت أدنيت لرسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم غسله من الجنابة فغسل كفيه مرتين وثلاثا ثم أدخل يده في الإناء ثم أفرغ به على فرجه وغسله بشماله ثم ضرب بشماله الأرض فدلكها دلكا شديدا ثم توضأ وضوءه للصلاة ثم أفرغ على رأسه 3 حافنات ملء كفيه ثم غسل سائر جسده ثم تنحى عن مقامه فغسل رجليه ثم أتيته بالمنديل فرده. أخرجه البخاري ومسلم. So this hadith, it mentions that Maymuna radiallahu anha, she said, I placed water near the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam to take a bath because of sexual intercourse. He washed the palms of his hands twice or 3 times and then put his hand in the water, the basin, and poured water over his private parts and washed them with his left hand, and then he struck his hand against the earth and rubbed it with force and then performed ablution, wudu, just like he would do for the prayer. And then he poured 3 handfuls of water on his head, and then he washed the rest of his body, and after he moved aside from that place and then he washed his feet, and then I brought him a towel, but he returned it and he did not use it. So this hadith, there is a number of fawaid and benefits that we're going to take from it. The first of all is the statement of Maymuna where she says, أَدْنَيْتُ لِرَسُولِ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمْ غُسْلَهُ. I brought close to the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam and I placed water near him in order so to take a bath from janaba, from the state of after having intercourse. In it we have the khidmah of the wives of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam for their husband. And this is part of the hayat az-zawjawiyya, the life of the part of the marriage life, that the wife helps her husband in akhassi ahwalihi, in the most private of affairs. In his bath, she would bring for him the water, and later on you will see as well, she brought for him towel. And it's not as the movements and the isms that we have today, feminism or other isms that exist, that they say, no, he can do that himself. He can cook and clean for himself. He can do his own water. He can do everything himself. I'm not doing nothing. We don't have that in the marriage life of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay? So, then the Messenger, she says, Maymuna radiallahu anha, and she's the one that reported for us this sifa, description of how to perform ghusl from the house of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the sahabiyat, the azwaj, the wives of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they would narrate for us things inside of the household of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that the other sahaba can't narrate, that they can't see. And so alhamdulillah, we have preserved for us, like we said earlier, the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he taught us everything, even how to use the toilet, yes, even how to take a shower. His wives preserved that for us and narrated it to us. So she said, فَغَسَلَ كَفَيْهِ مَرَّتَيْنِ أَوْ ثَلَاثًا. He washed his hands at the beginning 2 times or 3 times. This doubt, 2 or 3, it comes from the narrator, a narrator called Al-A'mash. Al-A'mash, he had doubt. And so instead of just guessing and saying, well, I don't remember, but I think it's 2. They would have diqqah, they would have so much detail and attention to how they would narrate the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. If they had any doubt, they would mention that in the narration. So we have, he washed his hands 2 times or 3 times. I can't remember which one, so he mentions both. And then later on, Al-A'mash, he remembered which one it was. And so he narrated it, jazman, and he said 3 times. He narrated it without any doubt in another narration, and he said 3 times. And that goes to show, look how much attention the muhaddithun, the ulama of hadith, would give to preserving the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, and how they would seek it and how they would give it back. And if this is the situation, and this is one example, this is the situation how the preservation of the sunnah, the Prophet ﷺ, or the sunnah of the muhaddithun ulama throughout the qurun is, then there's no doubt in the fact that Allah Azza wa Jal has preserved His religion. Just like Allah Azza wa Jal has preserved the Quran, Allah Azza wa Jal has preserved the Sunnah. And just like Jibreel alayhi salam used to come down with the wahy of the Quran to the Messenger, just like Jibreel, the angel would come down with the Quran to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, likewise Jibreel would come down with the Sunnah. And so it's an important thing to know. Some people, they will tell you, no, Quran is revelation. As for Sunnah, don't really know about that. And they start giving you doubts. How is it possible that the Sunnah is preserved all these thousands of men? Fiqh tamam. This is one example, and there's so many examples of how diligent they were in preserving and narrating the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. حتى وصلتنا صفاء نقية, up until it reached us pure. طيب. So we said there's another narration that mentions 3 times where he had no doubt after he remembered later on. طيب. ثم أدخل يده في الإناء, then he entered his hands into the water basin, فأفرغ به على فرجه وغسله بشماله. Then he placed his hand, his right hand, into the water basin, and he put that water that is in his hand, in his right hand, on his private parts. When he put it on his private part, he would wash it with his left hand. As we said, we use the washing of the private parts with the left. So he would take with the right, place the water on his private part, and wash with his left, the front and the back private part. ثم ضرب بشماله الأرض. Then he would take this left hand that he washes private parts with, and he would put it on the ground, and it was earth. There would be sand on the floor. They never had marble floor and designer toilet and la. The Masjid of the Prophet ﷺ was sand. The house, the toilets was sand. Okay, so now where he was sleeping, where he was having a shower, it was turab, sand, or the likes of it, or it was near it. And so he would place his left hand on that the earth, and he would دَلَكَهَا دَلْكًا شَدِيدًا. He would cleanse it with some force under earth. Okay? And whoever is ever been in a desert or on a trip outside and they don't have no shampoo and the likes, and you just had something oily, KFC, and today maybe I'm doing branding for KFC and now I'm not getting paid that. And you got oily hands. Just doing it with water doesn't get away, it doesn't remove that grease. You have to use soap or the likes, right? They never had soap, so what did they used to do? They used to use earth, just sand. They would get sand and they would rub it, then they would wash their hands with water and it would do the same effect and have the same effect as shampoo. And so today, if you want to copy the Prophet ﷺ in your washing, do you have to go and find some earth and get some sand in a bowl and put it next to your toilet? La, la, la. The ulama, they say, الصابون يقوم مقامه. That shampoo and the likes of it from the washing things that you have today, it takes its place. So you wash your private parts with your left, then you cleanse your left hand with some shampoo or some soap or the likes. ثم توضأ وضوءه للصلاة. Then he would perform wudu just like he would perform wudu for the prayer. And we already mentioned how to do wudu. So he would do wudu after washing his private parts and then washing his hands. He would do wudu just like he would do the wudu for the prayer. ثم أفرغ على رأسه ثلاث حفنات ملء كفيه. عندكم كل حفنة؟
لا كلها.
كذلك ليست في مسلم. طيب. طيب, so he would get 3 عفوا. Now, then he would get, after performing wudu, he would get 3 handfuls of water and he would place it on his head. So he would, after performing wudu, he would get water and wash his head, not wipe. This time you're washing 3 times up until it reaches your roots. ثم غسل سائر جسده. Then he would wash the rest of his body. ثم تنحى عن مقامه فغسل رجليه. Then after finishing all of that, he would exit the place where he was having a shower. So let's say, you know how you have like the stand-up showers, what do you call it? Cubicle, okay, cubicle. But it's not a bath like you sit in. It's the one that you just stand-up shower, right? Usually it's closed off so the water doesn't go out the toilet, right? So imagine the Prophet ﷺ, imagine he was standing somewhere similar to that. After he finished performing ghusl, what would he do? He would step out of it. And then he would wash his feet separately at the end for the wudu. So I forgot to mention, when he was performing wudu, he never washed his feet. He never washed his feet. He did everything he needs to do for wudu except for washing his feet. He left that until the end. Why? The ulama, they say either because the place was dusty, it was sand and the likes, so if he was to wash it, it would get muddy, or the sand would still be on his feet. So he would exit that place and then wash his feet separately. And there are other narrations that mentions he washed it at one time, at the same time he was doing wudu. So you're allowed to do your wudu completely and wash your feet, and you don't need to wash them again at the end. Or you do wudu except for your feet, and you wash your feet at the end after getting out of that place where you were performing wudu. Is that clear? 1 second.
To washing the front and back private part in the beginning, suffice for you don't have to do it again when you want to.
Ahsanta now. Yes. Does it suffice? Do you wash your private parts at the beginning, you don't wash it again? Yes. So you do it at the beginning, then you do wudu. If you did wudu and you wash your private parts again, what happens? If you touch your private parts, you broke your wudu, as we're going to take from the nullifiers. Okay, so you wash your private parts at the beginning. After washing your hands, wash your private parts, then you perform wudu, then you wash your head 3 times, then the rest of your body. And another narration explains in detail that it's the right side of your body after washing your head, then the left side of your body, and then you either exit and wash your feet, or you wash your head 1 more time and you're finished.
It's not obligatory to do wudu, is it?
No, look, so this is how the Prophet ﷺ performed wudu على الوجه الأكمل, in the best way. So this is the sunnah to do in the best way. The bare minimum is that you have the intention to do ghusl, and that you wash your whole body. So if you go into an ocean or a sea or the likes, and you have the intention that you're performing ghusl, and you dip in, all the way in, you go under the water, you come back out, does that count as ghusl or not? It counts as ghusl. That's the bare minimum, that the water touches all of your body. But the akmal, the better, the full version is that you do it in this order. And why do we have to do it in this order? Because the Prophet ﷺ kept, or the Maymuna kept saying, thumma, 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 like we said earlier. And then he did this, and then he did this. So you do it in this order specifically to get the reward for the sunnah.
When performing ghusl, is the water actually free flowing? As in like, it has to be, like, for example, like for a drain. Like,
No. So here the Prophet ﷺ, he did have a drink?
no, as in like,
Yeah.
that's fine.
No, go on.
No, like, when it flows, it doesn't, there's nothing stopping.
Oh, أحسنت, الآن فهمتك. No. جزاك الله خير. You're not allowed to do ghusl of janaba. We're talking about janaba is after major impurity, like sexual intercourse. You're not allowed to do that in water that is still. So you have the bathtub, you close the bath, that's what you mean, innit? And you filled it up. Are you allowed to bathe in there to remove major impurity? No. You're not allowed to wash yourself in because there's a specific hadith under. So it has to be going down the drain basically, fresh water.
Is that just with that, or is it?
Ghusl janaba. As for just cleansing yourself generally, and there's no major impurity, you're already clean, you just want to cleanse yourself again, then Allahu A'lam, I don't think there's any issue with that. Because the issue in the hadith, the other hadith mentioned specifically janaba, major impurity, in still water.
This is for all forms of janaba. This includes janaba from intercourse and from a wet dream, for example.
Yeah, so that's still janaba, ahsant. So janaba is whether a person has wet dream, whether a person has intercourse with their wife, even if a person doesn't have intercourse but wet water comes out from him in whatever manner, then he still has to perform ghusl. He still has to perform ghusl. And the minimum is, as we said already, and the sunnah is to do it in that order that we mentioned. Last question.
So yeah, after washing your head 3 times, is it compulsory for you to like wash the right side of the body first, then the left side?
This is all sunnah. So it's recommended, it's better to wash your right hand side first, then your left hand side, then the rest of your body.
3 times on both sides?
Yeah, you can wash 3 times, levels. طيب.
Ustadh, you said the water should be flowing. If you do it from the bucket, like you fill in the bucket and then you do the ghusl.
No, it's fine. What we mean is the water is not a bath where you're in the state of janaba and you're going into that water that's still. That's what we mean. Okay? So whether the water is running or you're picking up the bucket, just like the Prophet ﷺ, he's picking up the water. Yeah? We're talking about you never went into that bucket of water. That's the main thing. That,
It's not janaba. It's not janaba. Can you still do
yeah, as
it?
we said, it's akhaf, inshallah. But you can ask a sheikh for specific. That's it, right? طيب. So then we have the last part. ثم أتيته. Like the last part before that, when we said the Prophet ﷺ got out of that place where he was performing the ghusl, then he washed his feet. In it is evidence that even in wudu, generally speaking, you can do the wudu a little bit later. You don't have to do it straight away, as long as you don't get dry. So some ulama, they say as long as you don't get dry, you have to do muwalat, like the madhab al-Hanbali. They say you have to do the washing of your feet straight away, muwalat. But madhab al-Shafi'i and other than them, they say as long as you can do it it's not obligatory that you have to do all of it at one time, specifically the feet. So there's a narration where Umar ibn Khattab, he was in the marketplace and he performed wudu. He did everything except for the feet. Then he walked to the masjid and then he washed his feet. So here as well we have the Prophet ﷺ did all of the wudu except for the feet. Then he continued having his ghusl, then he did his feet at the end. Okay? So that's allowed. Then his wife Maymuna, she brought the towel, فَرَدَّهُ, and he did not accept it. So the Prophet ﷺ here, he did not accept the towel, but in other narrations, it mentions more detail. It mentions that the Prophet ﷺ, he put his clothes on straight away. So putting your clothes on straight away is kind of like a way of drying yourself, especially in a hot country. So if you're in Saudi Arabia, Mecca, Medina, especially in this time of the year, if you used to have a shower and you put your clothes on and you used to go outside for salah, you're going to dry straight away. not like UK. You get cold straight away. So the Prophet ﷺ put his clothes on straight away. In another hadith, he would move himself so that the water drips off. So the water was dripping off, and that was a type of drying. And the ulama, they have ijma' that it's okay, it's consensus that it's okay to use a towel. There's nothing wrong with that. The Prophet ﷺ didn't prefer it. It's allowed to use a towel. Okay, and him putting on his clothes, the ulama say is a type of drying himself, and it's allowed. As we said, moving from the place where you did ghusl, if you're in a place where the floor is najasa or is dirty or the likes, and you move from it, then you are following the way of the Prophet ﷺ. That's what he did. But if the place where you perform with water, like your house, your toilet, it's solid, it's not sand, it's not impure and the likes, you can perform your wudu completely there, just like is in another narration of the Prophet that he did the wudu, all of it including his feet, the first time, and he did not wait to the end. Is that clear for everyone?
They are rewarded sunnah to avoid using a towel.
Allahu A'lam. Don't know.
You know when you said you can do also by going in the sea, for example, if you make the intention, when you come out of that also you have wudu.
If you don't have intention, no, you don't have wudu. You have to have an intention for wudu. And wudu, part of wudu is you have to wash your mouth and nose. طيب, next hadith, الحديث الثامن. It's hard to read and to teach for a couple of hours without no water. Huh? But it's no problem, inshallah. In Medina, just so we can let's get refreshed a little bit. In Medina, Sheikh Salih Usaymi, he had a program where they were doing Sahih Muslim, and it was in the month of Ramadan. He had a program every year after Ramadan. They would read one of the 6 books of the hadith, Bukhari, Muslim, Dawood, Tirmidhi, until even Muwatta Malik, 7. So the year that I caught was Sahih Muslim, and we just did our futur, just began fasting, prayed Fajr in Masjid Nabawi, then we have a lesson, Sahih Muslim, for 3 hours, 2 to 3 hours. Alhamdulillah, I wasn't reading, or we wasn't reading, we were just listening. The brother that's reading is one reader, and he's reading 2 to 3 hours straight. Mu'adh Tayyib, that's his name, Mu'adh Tayyib, and he's got a beautiful voice. So he would read 2-3 hours for 19 days of Ramadan. It's only 11 days he wasn't reading, and that's much harder than what we're doing, alhamdulillah. So نصبر سويا, we are patient inshallah. الحديث الثامن عن أنس بن مالك رضي الله عنه قال كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يتوضأ بالمد ويغتسل بالصاع إلى 5 أمداد. At least we get to drink water straight after. We only got an hour left to, as soon as we finish, 2 gallons of water. For him, it's Fajr, we just started. Allah يعينك. Got another 15 hours left, no water. طيب, عن أنس بن مالك رضي الله عنه قال كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يتوضأ بالمد ويغتسل بالصاع إلى 5 أمداد. أخرجه البخاري ومسلم. The Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam, as has been narrated by Anas, he would perform wudu with 1 mud, and he would take a bath with a sa' up until 5 amdad. What does mud mean? What does sa' mean? So he would use the amount of 1 mud when he was performing wudu, and he would use from a sa' up to 5 muds when he was doing ghusl, when he was having a bath. Al-muddu mil'u kaffay rajulin mu'tadil. 1 mud is a handful of a man that is mu'tadil, yani his hands are average, yani it's not large hands, it's not small tiny hands, medium sized hands. Okay. طيب, so we take a handful, and that is 1 mud. 1 mud. The Prophet ﷺ would do wudu with 1 mud. صعبة, hard. That's what the Prophet ﷺ used to do. 1 mud person used to wudu. It's possible. Get a bottle of water, small bottle of water, medium-sized bottle of water, not small, not large, medium-sized bottle of water, do wudu with it. You can do it, inshallah. Maybe you struggle with your feet. Lakin, probably more than a mud. طيب, a sa', so the mud is 2 handful or 1 handful. This is called 1 handful or 2 handful? 2, khalas. 2 handful of water. That's mud. And a sa' is the handful 4 times. 4 of these mud, they become a sa'. Is that clear? So that's the type of measurements. You know how we have kilograms and kilometers and the likes and liters? We have in Islam, back, don't say now, khalas, we can't use kilometers and kilo. You're allowed to use it. But in the time of the Prophet, jazakallah khair, shukran, they would count it as mud and sa' and farsakh and miles. They would say farsakh and this, and we studied it one time with Shaykh Abdul Hamid. But it sounds all foreign to us. It's hard to remember. Sa' is how many mud? 4. So the Prophet would do ghusl with a sa'. So how many mud? 4. Up until 5 amdad. So he would do from 4 times or up to 5 times, and he would perform ghusl and have a bath with that amount. Clear? Any question?
This is 1 mud.
The 2 is 1 mud. So 4 times that's a sa'. So he would have a shower from 4 amdad, which is a sa', to 5. 4 to 5 amdad. أخرجه البخاري ومسلم. And in it is a recommendation to try to use the least amount of water you can when you're performing wudu and when you're doing ghusl. Okay? فيه استحباب في تقليل الماء في استعمال الماء في الوضوء والغسل. وقد أجمع العلماء. The ulama have ijma' consensus that it's allowed for a person to use more or less. You don't have to stick to that amount. It's allowed by ijma' to use more or less. But what's the ibrah? The ibrah is you're not allowed to waste water. You're not allowed to waste water. And there's ijma'. There's also another consensus that it's haram to do israf of water. It's haram for a person to waste water. He uses the amount that you could have for a shower, he uses that for wudu. The amount 10 people could have shower with, he's doing it for himself. Having a shower for 1 hour. قلل. طيب. Any questions? The next hadith. الحديث التاسع. طيب. I have shahin. I have charger, but I need أيوة no iPod كمان. جزاك الله خير.
I have one.
No, I have one. It's going to bring it now. جزاك الله خير. شكرا. طيب. الحديث التاسع. عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إذا وجد أحدكم في بطنه شيئا فأشكل عليه أخرج منه شيء أم لا فلا يخرجن من المسجد حتى يسمع صوتا أو يجد ريحا. So the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, صلى الله عليه وسلم here in this hadith, as has been narrated by Abu Hurairah and has been طيب دقيقة بس. لا يعين. Just like the half of Imam Mundhiri had to write his book from his memory, have to explain the rest from memory. لا بأس. يشتغل في الغرفة. كان يشتغل في الغرفة. طيب بسم الله. we continue. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, he said that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said, if one of you finds within himself or finds within his stomach something فأشكل عليه, he has doubt, did something exit from me or did it not exit from me? Did I fast? Did I not fast? He finds something in his belly, he hears some growling, maybe he thinks, did I fast? Did I not fast? What do? Prophet ﷺ, he said, فَلَا يَخْرُجَنَّ مِنَ الْمَسْجِدِ حَتَّى يَسْمَعَ صَوْتًا أَوْ يَجِدَ رِيحًا. Then do not exit the masjid and the prayer up until you hear a sound or you find its smell. You find the smell of that fart. Okay? And so in it we have a number of affairs. First of all, that النواقض ليست بالشعور وإنما بالحقائق. That the nawaqid, the nullifiers of wudu, are not through emotion and through maybe. It's only done through yaqeen. Certainly this thing took place, so I have this ruling now. Okay? So this man complained and he said, I find within myself, I'm not sure if I exited the prayer or not. So the Prophet said, if you find this, أَخَرَجَ مِنْهُ شَيْءٌ أَمْ لَا, if something exited from you or did it not exit from you, here we have in it that the Prophet ﷺ عَلَّقَ الْأَمْرُ بِالْخُرُوجِ. He connected the affair to exiting, which shows us that the nawaqid of wudu is everything that exits from one of the two private parts. The nawaqid, the nullifiers of wudu, is kullu kharijin an as-sabilayn. Everything or anything that exits from the front private part or from the back private part, then that breaks your wudu. Is that clear? And then the Prophet ﷺ guided him to what to do. Man has doubt, he doesn't know what to do. Did something exit, did something not exit? So the Prophet ﷺ guided him to acting upon yaqeen, acting upon certainty. What is the certainty? That you hear something or you smell the fart. You hear something or you smell the fart. And from this hadith, the ulama, they take from it the big qa'idah al-usuliyah, al-yaqeenu la yazulu bil-shak. That certainty, the ulama, the fuqaha, and the usuliyun, they have many principles in the religion. They have 5 major principles. And one of those 5 major principles is certainty is never removed with doubt. Certainty is never removed with doubt. Certainty can only be removed with certainty. And so, in it is al-amalu bil-yaqeen wa tark al-waswas also. To act upon that which is certainty and to stay away from waswas. Why? Because he has waswas. Did something break my wudu, did it not? Did something exit, did something not? And if a person thinks about that too much, he can go to the stage of waswas, where he will get constant whispers. Every time he does wudu, start Bismillah, he starts doing wudu. He starts washing his mouth and nose, start washing his face. Let me just do it all over again. Let me just start again, just in case maybe I didn't wash this properly. So he starts again. Bismillah. He starts again, washes it, gets to his arms this time. Then he says, did I wash my mouth and nose? I'll start again just in case. And he ends up doing wudu for 10 minutes. Something that takes a couple of minutes, it takes him 10 minutes, 20 minutes. And this is waswas, and it exists. And it can get worse, and you can go to a person's salah. So a person enters into the prayer and they say, Allahu Akbar. They say, Astaghfirullah, Astaghfirullah. They say, Astaghfirullah. Maybe I'll start again. Exits the salah. Allahu Akbar. Allah. Allahu Akbar. And this is a reality. It's not even something that's funny. It's a reality that happens. And this is called waswas. And so here the Prophet ﷺ, he guides us away from waswas by what? Acting upon that which is certainty. The last thing that you remember that's certain. And so we have the example. If a person breaks their wudu, breaking wudu is a certainty? It's a certainty. Then a couple hours later, he has doubt. Did I perform wudu after I went to the toilet or did I not perform wudu? There's a doubt, right? Did I perform wudu after I went to the toilet? The toilet part is a certainty. What do we do? Huh? Say again? Perform wudu. Why? Because the last certainty that you have is that you went to the toilet. After that certainty, you have doubt. Did I make wudu? Did I not make wudu? You don't know. So you act upon the last certainty, which is you never had wudu. So you make wudu again. And the opposite is true. If a person made wudu and they prayed, for example, right now they pray Salat al-Asr with us in the Masjid. Then he thinks, did I break my wudu? Did I not break my wudu? Where did the doubt come? The doubt came after the certainty of I definitely prayed, I had wudu. Did I break my wudu after or not? That's doubt. What do? You continue praying, you have wudu. Because the last certainty that you have is you prayed salah. As for the wudu, if I broke my wudu or not, that's a doubt. And we don't act upon doubts. Is that clear?
Something might have something problem when they go to the toilet, they urinate, they do wudu, and then after that, they might feel something's going to come out of their front private parts. And some people, I think someone might say it's bloody, but it doesn't come out from the front private parts. And out of bounds, should someone check?
Okay, so there's some of the ulama, they mention detail in this, and they say that a person, first of all, they shouldn't be touching their private part afterwards to try and make everything else come out. It's not allowed to do that, because that's what's going to cause these type of things. Person's finished using the toilet, he doesn't go to his front private part where he urinates from and try to squeeze everything else out. Shouldn't do that, because that's going to cause these type of faults where he's just dripping afterwards. If a person after getting up, he checks himself and he's wet, then he has to perform wudu again. But if a person reaches the stage where he becomes salis al-bawl, where all the time there might be some urine coming out from him, then that's a specific disease and there's specific ahkam for it. Okay, so you need to ask about that. Salis al-bawl, the person that has bladder problems that always urinates.
How do you sort of certain when you should stop checking due to its worth and when you should check? Because sometimes a person might feel something, but then sort of how do you know whether it's worse and you shouldn't?
This question specifically?
Yeah.
Khalas, we'll come back to it another time, remind me, and maybe I'll share, inshallah, the fatwa with some of the ulama in that regard, okay? Hadith al-Tasi'. I would say to you, stand up, take a break and go get some water, but there's no point. We might as well finish, inshallah, and then do our du'as after. طيب, that's the end of the hadith. Hadith number 10. طيب. الحديث العاشر عن عائشة رضي الله عنها قالت خرجنا مع رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. And when you hear صلى الله عليه وسلم, keep saying صلى الله عليه وسلم. Prophet ﷺ said, whoever sends peace and blessings upon me one time, then Allah Azza wa Jal will send salat and salam upon him 10 times. And it's recommended, especially on Fridays, to send a lot of peace and blessings upon the Prophet ﷺ. So now we're reading his ahadith. Every time we hear it, then say it. Okay? You get reward for it. عن عائشة رضي الله عنها قالت خرجنا مع رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم في بعض أسفاره حتى إذا كنا بالبيداء أو بذات الجيش انقطع عقد لي فقام رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم على التماسه وقام الناس معه وليسوا على ماء وليس معهم ماء فأتى الناس إلى أبي بكر رضي الله عنه وقال ولا ترى ما صنعت عائشة أقامت برسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم بالناس وليسوا على ماء وليس معهم ماء فجاء أبو بكر ورسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم واضع رأسه على فخذي قد نام فقال حبست رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم والناس ليسوا على ماء وليس معهم ماء قالت فعاتبني أبو بكر رضي الله عنه وقال ما شاء الله أن يقول وجعل يطعن بيده في خاصرتي فلا يمنعني من التحرك إلا مكان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم على فخذي فنام حتى أصبح على غير ماء فأنزل الله تعالى آية التيمم فتيمموا فقال أسيد بن الخدير رضي الله عنه وهو أحد النقباء ما هي بأول بركتكم يا آل أبي بكر قالت عائشة رضي الله عنها فبعثنا البعير الذي كنت عليه فوجدنا العقد تحته وأخرج البخاري ومسلم. This is a long hadith and I will translate it as we go on instead of translating all of it one time because it would take us extra long. طيب, so Aisha رضي الله عنها, she says خرجنا مع رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم في بعض أسفاره. We traveled with the Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم in some of his travels. Hafiz ibn Hajar, he says this travel was in غزوة بني المصطلق, in the exertion and the war or the battle of Bani al-Mustaliq. Okay? Hafiz ibn Hajar. Or Bidat al-Jaysh. Up until we reached this place, Bayda or That al-Jaysh. And they say the shek, this place or that place is from the narrator and not from Aisha radiallahu anha. And Bayda is مكان مرتفع قريب من مستشفى ميقات ذي الحليفة. This hospital, this spot or place, Al-Bayda, is located today at a hospital near Dhul Hulayfa, and it's entered into the city of Medina. And others said that it's actually closer to Mecca than it is to Medina, it's in between Mecca and Medina. And others said that it's between Medina and Tabuk. And so there's a difference in the actual location. But al-Muhim, they were traveling with the Prophet ﷺ up until they reached this area. انقطع عقد لي. A necklace that Aisha radiallahu anha had went missing from her. And this necklace that she had, she borrowed it from her sister Asma bint Abi Bakr radiallahu anhuma. And so she told the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the Prophet sallallahu began looking for it, and all the people began looking for it. And so they ended up looking for it, and nightfall happened, and the Prophet sallallahu went to sleep. So the Prophet sallallahu was still asleep. The rest of the people woke up, and they don't have any water. The only water that they had, in some narrations mentions that it's water to drink, and others said they didn't have no water at all. So some of the people went to Abu Bakr as-Siddiq and they said to him, "Oh Abu Bakr, haven't you seen what Aisha did to the Prophet ﷺ? She caused him to stay, and now everyone's got no water, we don't have no water. And why were they scared there was no water? Wudu. That's the main thing in their heads. They're not thinking about, I'm gonna die out of thirst and etc. The first thing in their head is, we can't pray without wudu. And tayammum wasn't legislated yet. So they go into Abu Bakr complaining that the Prophet ﷺ, everyone's woke up and there's no wudu for us, there's no water for us to perform wudu. So Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, he went to Aisha radiallahu anha. And the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam is asleep. And where is he sleeping? He's sleeping on the thigh of Aisha radiallahu anha. His head is on the thigh of Aisha radiallahu anha. He's leaning his head on her thigh. And that alone shows you the karam and the beautiful ishra the Prophet ﷺ had with his wives. Not like the society in the world we live in today, where we have extreme feminism this side and extreme red pill masculinity on this side, and they say you can't show any love and affection, and how dare you put your head on your wife's thigh, are you a woman? This is what people say, sah, today. You have to be a man. طيب صح, you have to be a man. رجال لا تلهيهم تجارة ولا ذكر ولا بيع عن ذكر الله. True men, they don't get distracted by business and buying and selling from the remembrance of Allah. True men, they pray in the masajid. True men, they have their times. But at home, they have affection and show love to their wives. So don't listen to all that garbage that's being promoted on the social media nowadays. So the Prophet ﷺ, he placed his head on the fakhid, the thigh of Aisha radiallahu anha. And Abu Bakr came, because Abu Bakr, his daughter is Aisha, so he's allowed to enter. And he started rebuking Aisha radiallahu anha. Look what you've done. All the people have been everyone's stuck here because of you, because you couldn't find your necklace, and now everyone's got no water, and look what you did to the Prophet ﷺ. And so he's rebuking her, and he's pushing her like that on her hips, because he's the father. Aisha said, he said what he said from rebuking me, and I didn't move. The only thing that prevented me from moving is that the Prophet ﷺ's head was on my thigh. And so the Prophet ﷺ woke up, and he wanted to go and pray, but he found that there was no water. And then Allah Azza wa Jal revealed ayat al-tayammum, whether it's in Surah An-Nisa or Surah Al-Ma'idah, which are both similar, that Allah Azza wa Jal revealed that you can perform wudu or tayammum from the sa'id al-tayyib, from the pure earth. And so one of the Sahaba, Usayd ibn al-Hudayr, وعندكم الحسين is wrong. Usayd ibn al-Hudayr is in Sahih Muslim. He said to Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, this is not the first time, this is not the first blessing that we've received from you, O family of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. They were complaining about Aisha because they were all stuck with no water at the beginning, but now they were thanking Aisha and her father and the family of Abu Bakr because of this action. What was legislated? At ease. What was the ease? They can perform tayammum from the earth, where they just have to hit the earth and wash or wipe over their face and their hands, and that is wudu, because they don't have water. That ease came after this whole story. And so ما هذه بأول بركتكم يا آل أبي بكر. This is not the first time we received a blessing from you, O family of Abu Bakr. Here barakatikum means كثير الخير, a lot of good that lasts. So this good that was brought because of this story was through Aisha radiallahu anha. And then Aisha, she said, فبعثنا البعير الذي كنت عليه. So we went to get the riding beast that I was supposed to ride on, and when we made it stand up, lo and behold, what happened? The necklace was underneath the riding beast the whole time. So Allah Azza wa Jal, He, from His qada and qadar, was for them to have this legislated through the means of Aisha radiallahu anha losing her necklace, and she ended up finding it afterwards. This has been narrated in Bukhari and Muslim. طيب, in it that Aisha radiallahu anha had a necklace in her journey is an evidence that al-huli, that this beautifications of necklace and the likes is allowed for women to wear. It's allowed for women to wear, and it's not haram for them to wear. Some other ulama, they made a fatwa saying that it's haram, but what's correct, as Shaykh Sulaiman Ruhaili mentioned, is that it's allowed, and this is the evidence. She had a necklace that she was wearing, and in qata, it broke, and she lost it. طيب. But of course, من غير تبرج, without tabarruj. So a person doesn't wear a necklace, gold, female, we're talking about women, nor a ring or a bracelet or the likes, and it's on show for other people to see. Aisha radiallahu anha was covered, and so you couldn't see her necklace. Okay, so you're allowed to wear it, but it has to be covered from the men. It's only allowed for other men from your maharim, from your family members, that are allowed to see it, and other women. Okay? Like the next hadith. Any questions? Usayd al-Khudayr, the one that said at the end, this is not the first blessing, O family of Abu Bakr. He mentions in the book Usayd ibn al-Husayn, and that's wrong.
Do you only have to take the ground, or does it have to be sand?
Say again? Sand. Yeah, so earth, any earth, sand, or the like. Some ulama say it has to have some dust with it, some say it doesn't. But al-muhim is the earth. And so you do a dharb of it one time. And one time for the face and the hands. And some ulama, they mentioned 2 times. So one for the face and one for the hand. Is that clear?
What if you can't find dust or dirt?
That's a different mas'ala. If you don't have water and you can't perform tayammum, then there's a big ikhtilaf between ulama. There's a person tried everything that they could. Do they pray without wudu? Do they not pray with wudu? Or when they find wudu later on, do they have to repeat it or not? There's a big discussion between ulama. But generally it's the earth. So you go outside to the earth and you hit it. Any other questions?
What about if you're just in the toilet and there's no water? How do you clean your hands?
For wudu?
No, you're just in the toilet and you have to clean your hands.
No, this is for wudu specifically. So this is when you want to perform wudu or ghusl, and you can't use ghusl as well. As for washing your hands and you don't have no water to wash, just because it's dirty? Or you mean after istinja? Yeah, after istinja. So if you don't have water and you're using rocks, you do. Last two questions quickly. Some ulama say, they say it's only hands, that's what I hold. And some say they say including up to the whole arms. Some say this, some say one darba, two darbas as well. Allahu alam, I don't think so. But inshallah, if you ask me next time, okay? I don't know. طيب الحديث الحادي عشر تيمم. There's anything else I wanted to say about tayammum? Okay, tayammum. So this is the one. Tayammum, asbab tayammum is 3. The reasons for using tayammum are 3. Number 1, faqdul ma'. You don't have any water. You not having any water is a reason for you to use tayammum. Number 2, you have water, but you cannot use that water because if you use that water, it's going to make you sick. Like let's say you got cold already and it's freezing weather, and the water, there's no generator working. The boiler's not working. It's cold water, it's in the winter, and you already got cold. If you use it, it's going to increase you in sickness. So, you're allowed to do tayammum. Is that clear? There's a story of one of the Sahaba. He had a wound on his head, and they were traveling, and he was in a state of janaba. He needs to do ghusl, obligatory to do ghusl. So he asked some of the companions that were there. The Prophet ﷺ wasn't with them. He said, I need to make ghusl, but I've got this wound. Do you guys see any reason for me to do tayammum? They said, we see water around. That's the only reason why we know you can't that you can perform tayammum. So he washed himself with water, and he had to wash his head, and he died. So when they came to the Prophet ﷺ, he said, قَتَلُوهُ قَاتَلَهُمُ اللَّهِ. They killed him, may Allah killed him. This is a phrase that the Arab use that they don't mean the actual fi'l dua against. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, why didn't they ask? Indeed, the cure for ignorance is asking. And so the correct thing for him was to do tayammum, because if he was to use it, he would die like he ended up dying. Okay? Because the Islam looks at mafasid and masalih, it looks at pros and cons. If he uses it, he's going to die. That's not something that Islam wants from you to kill yourself. So you do tayammum. So the second reason is you can't use that water because of sickness, or you will get more sick, or it will kill you, or the likes. Is that clear? Third reason is a person is traveling and they only have a little bit of water left, enough to drink or enough to do wudu. What do you do? You drink that water and you perform tayammum. This is ease that Allah Azza wa Jal has given you as well. So these are the 3 times. If you have a little bit of water and you're traveling and there's nowhere else to get water, then you're allowed to use that water for drinking and not for the wudu, and you do tayammum instead. Any questions? Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Say again? What would they do if there was no water and no tayammum? This is why they were complaining. They were worried. What should we do? What should we do? Okay, they didn't know what. There was nothing legislated before that. This is the first time it was legislated. Okay. طيب الحديث الحادي عشر عن معاذ رضي الله عنها قالت سألت عائشة رضي الله عنها فقلت ما بال الحائض تقضي الصوم ولا تقضي الصلاة فقالت أحرورية أنت فقلت لست بحرورية ولكني أسأل قالت كان يصيبنا ذلك فنؤمر بقضاء الصوم ولا نؤمر بقضاء الصلاة. This hadith was narrated by Mu'adha radiyallahu ta'ala, Mu'adha, which is from the Tabi'een. She was later on from the Mu'adha rahimahullah ta'ala, she was a female scholar. And she was from the kibar fuqaha al-tabi'in. She was from the great female jurist of the tabi'in. And she asks, in her years of studying, she said, I asked Aisha radiallahu anha, and I said to her, ما بال الحائض تقضي الصوم ولا تقضي الصلاة? What is the situation of a woman that is in her menses? She has to make up the fasting and she doesn't have to make up the prayer. The women, when they are in their menses, they can't fast in the month of Ramadan, those days that they have menses. But throughout the year, it was a place. Harura was a place. And a group of people called the Khawarij. And Khawarij, as we know them today in much easier terms, is ISIS, right? They broke away from Ali radiallahu anhu and the Sahaba, and they gathered together in Harura. This was a place that they would be together and they were known for. And so the Khawarij, they would reject the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ sometimes. And they would use their aql and their likes. Okay? So this question that she asked, Aisha sensed from it, maybe this person is from the Haruriyya. So she asked her, Aharuriyatin anti? Are you from the Haruriyya? And so Mu'adha straight away she said, Lastu بحرورية ولكن أسأل. I am not a Haruriyya, I'm not from the Khawarij, but I'm just asking. I'm just curious, I'm asking. And so Aisha radiallahu anha, she answered her with the Sunnah. Instead of saying, this is the reason why we have to do this and we don't have to do this. This is because fasting is only a couple of days and you can make that up, and prayers is a lot and you can't make that. She never went into details. She could have. She just answered her with al-istisam bis-sunnah, to have submission to the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. So she said, that used to occur to us as well, meaning menses. So we were commanded to make up the fast, and we were not commanded to make up the prayer. Khalas. It's all that's in the affair. Allah Azza wa Jalla and the Messenger ﷺ, He commanded us to make up the fasting, and He never commanded us to make up the prayer. Khalas. If they said it, we submit to it. She didn't go into details. And knowing istislam lil-wahyayn, being submitted to the revelation is obligatory upon all of us, whether we know the wisdoms behind it or not. If you know the wisdom behind it and the hikmah behind it, then it's a qadr za'id. It's an extra qadr. It's not. It's a bonus, yeah. It's a bonus if you know the wisdom. Prophet ﷺ, he told us, if the fly goes into your drink, then you put it all the way in. If the Prophet ﷺ never told us the reason why, that would have been enough. Prophet ﷺ said it, we do it. Prophet ﷺ washed himself in ghusl like this, we do it. Cleansed himself with the left, we do it, without asking why. And if we know why, then it's a bonus. The Prophet ﷺ, he said to us, put the fly all the way in. Why? Because in one of the wings there is the disease, and in the other there's the cure to that disease. And now scientists and Kala, they did their job and they looked at the microscopes and they experimented both, and they found it's true. When the fly goes into your drink and it flies away, and you don't put it all the way in, there's a lot of diseases in there. But when you put it in, all the way in, it cancels out the disease and the poison, and it takes it out. They saw it under the lens. Now we know we have ziyadat iman, but it already we were submitted to it. Likewise here, the women, you don't fast in those days and you make them up. Why? Because the Prophet ﷺ said. You don't pray, but you don't make up those prayers. Why? Because the Prophet ﷺ said. Okay? طيب. In it we have as well, take glasses. طيب. In it we have as well that Mu'adha radiallahu ta'ala, rahimahullah ta'ala, she said, straight away, I am not from amongst them. What does that show? That shows you that everyone, those that were general folk and those that were students of knowledge, those that were close, those that were far, all of them knew about the affair of the Haruriyya, the Khawarij, in their time. They all knew that they were a group of people that are bad, that fight the Sahaba, that don't submit to the wahi, and the likes. So straight away she said, no, I'm not from them. She didn't say, well, who are those people? I don't know who they are. Which shows you that warning against the Khawarij and their likes is something that should be done up until the young and the old and everyone stays clear from them. And Khawarij, we said, are like who? Are like ISIS. And their callers are many. And the Prophet ﷺ, he warned against them severely before they even existed. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, if I was to meet them, I would kill them, the killing of Ad and Thamud. He says that they are kilabun nar, the dogs of the hellfire. And he said many other descriptions, that they recite the Quran and it does not go beyond their throats, and it doesn't descend to their hearts. They just recite it a lot. They don't understand it and they don't act upon it. So the severe tahdirat and warnings of the Messenger ﷺ before they even existed. How about after they existed in the time of Aisha? How about our time? When we have ISIS, Boko Haram, Khawarij, all over, left, right and center. Telling you, kill this one, fajr this one, any kafir that you find, kill him on the streets. Hi, you're in a non-Muslim country? You're in UK? Yeah. Just go by the army racks and just cut a guy's head off like they did with Lee Rigby. That's from the actions of the Khawarij. Prophet ﷺ warned against. You're not allowed to kill a kafir that is not in combat against you. If it's not physical war right now in the field, you're not allowed to kill a kafir if he is not fighting you, if he's being good to you, if he's got an ahd, peace treaty, if he's come on a visa to a Muslim country. You're not allowed to do any of that. Right? So the Khawarij, they take some of the ayat in the Quran and they act on others. So I warn you from those Khawarij that exist today. Whether it is those that are alive right now, and we'll mention names so that we know we can stay away from. There is a famous guy who is Somali, and they translate his videos sometimes, who's called Hassan Hussein. Hassan Hussein, Jazakallah khair. I don't know if we know his name. We don't need to know his name. But Hassan Hussein, just so we know who we're talking about. He's a person who is from the Khawarij. He calls to killing people, innocent civilians. And then he tells you to lie afterwards. Just say, oh, it was accident, I crashed him by accident. He says, go hit your car on him, kill him. Then later say, oh, it's accident. He says, do this. He says, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, the one that was the head of ISIS, that he's an Islamic ruler and everyone has to give allegiance to him. This is Hassan Hussein, that his videos are seen on social media today. Stay away from him. And those that are not alive, but their videos might be still around, and some people still have husn al-dhan of, like Osama bin Laden. Don't think just because the disbelievers and the kuffar in America always talk about Osama bin Laden, that must mean he was a good guy. La, he actually was a Khariji. Whether the kuffar say it or not, we don't care what they say. If you listen to his statements and his actions, he was a Khariji. He says it himself. Blow this one up, kill yourself, do suicide bombing. Allah says in the Quran, وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ, do not kill yourself. And he says to you, no, go do suicide bombing, blow yourself up. Who do you listen to? Allah or this man? And his videos are up, and some people, and I've heard many people, they still have good thoughts of this person, and he was a Khariji. Sheikh Muqbil warned against him, and the ulama of Ahlul Sunnah warned against him before 9/11 and before all of this stuff took place. Okay? So that's another example from old. And anyone else that calls everyone a kafir, he calls the Muslim rulers, all of them are kuffar. There's not a Muslim ruler today that exists. And everyone that lives under his rule, all of them are kuffar. If you ever hear anyone speaking like this, mass takfir, mass declaring people to be outside of Islam, stay away from him. That's from their methodology of the Khawarij. Okay? Anyone that declares someone to be a kafir because of sins, so and so he drank alcohol, so and so he did zina, he says it's kafir. That is the aqidah and the creed of the Khawarij. Let's all stay away from them, and we warn our family members, our children, our young ones from them. And we don't wait up until another attack happens. They commit a suicide bomb or they kill someone, and then we start explaining, yo, the Khawarij, they're bad, stay away from them. We have to do it beforehand. We have to spread awareness. Just like Aisha radiallahu anha asked this tabi'iyah, are you a Haruriya? When she sniffed that, maybe sensed that maybe this person is, why is she asking about the Prophet's command? But she turned out not to be from the Khawarij, and she declared herself free from the Khawarij because she knew, and the Sahaba used to warn against her. Is that clear?
So, what about if we warn against our families, but some of our families might have, they might see good in them, perhaps with different ta'weel or they might see.
Explain to them with rifq, with gentleness. Show them the verses where Allah Azza wa Jal, He says that you're not allowed to kill the kuffar if they show good to you. Show them the verses or the hadith where the Prophet ﷺ, he would have a Jewish neighbor and he would go and visit them. He wouldn't kill them. And these guys, what they're saying? No, they're telling you kill. Indiscriminate. Prophet ﷺ warned even in a combat war to kill a old man, to kill, that's not fighting, to kill women, to kill children. The Prophet ﷺ warned against them. And this person is telling you, no, kill civilians indiscriminately. They're collateral damage, it doesn't matter. So with gentleness, with rifq, and inshallah, they will turn away from it. May Allah protect us and our families from the fikr of takfir and the khawarij. The next hadith. الحديث الثاني عشر عن عبد الله بن عمر رضي الله عنهما قال كان المسلمون حين قدموا المدينة يجتمعون فيتحينون الصلاة وليس ينادي لها أحد فتكلموا يوما في ذلك فقال بعضهم اتخذوا ناقوسا مثل ناقوس النصارى وقال بعضهم اتخذوا قرنا مثل قرن اليهود فقال عمر رضي الله عنه ولا تبعثون رجلا فينادي بالصلاة قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يا بلال قم فنادي بالصلاة. This hadith that was narrated by Abdullah ibn Umar radiyallahu anhuma. When there is a companion, one companion, we say radiyallahu anhu. May Allah be pleased with him in singular form. But if there is a sahabi and it mentions his father and his father is also a sahabi, then we say may Allah be pleased upon both of them. So we have Abdullah, the son of Umar ibn al-Khattab. So Abdullah is a sahabi and his father Umar is a sahabi, so we say radiyallahu anhuma. May Allah be pleased with both of them. He said that كان المسلمون, when the Muslims came to Medina, they gathered and they just used to gather randomly, seeking out the time of the prayer without anyone summoning them, without anyone calling them. So one day they discussed the matter because شق عليهم. Imagine every day is dhuhr time, so they are guessing what time congregation is going to be. They're trying to just meet at the same time at the masjid to pray together jama'atan. So some might come early, some might come a bit later. So the affair became hard upon them. And so they came together to discuss a solution for this problem. So some of them said, let us take a bell that you can ring, like the bell of the Christians. And some others, they said, let's use the horn, a horn that we can call the prayer to, just like the Jews use the horn. So Umar radiallahu anhu, he said, why don't we just appoint one man to call to the prayer? Why don't we just call one man, appoint one man to call to the prayer? How? Meaning, we get a man, he stands up and he just says, As-salatu jami'ah, As-salatu jami'ah, the prayer in congregation, the prayer in congregation, he would just call out. Or he would say, As-salah, As-salah, prayer, prayer. And people would know it's salat and they would come together. This is before the adhan was legislated. Then, in this hadith, he mentions the Prophet ﷺ, he told Bilal to get up and to do adhan, call it to the prayer. But before the Prophet ﷺ said that, a man from a sahabi called Abdullah ibn Abdurrazaq, in another hadith, he said that he had a dream. And in that dream, a man that he didn't know was carrying something. And so he told that man, Oh, Ya Abdullah, O slave of Allah. And in it is a benefit, side benefit. If you don't know someone's name, usually if you go to Saudi Arabia, what do they say if they don't know your name? Ya Muhammad. But what's better is to say Ya Abdullah. Just like in this narration. He was sleeping, he didn't know who the man was, so he said Ya Abdullah, because all of us are slaves of Allah. So he told him, he says, I want to buy that off you, so I can call it for the adhan. He's dreaming. So the man said, shall I not tell you something better? He said, okay. He said, say it, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu an la-" say the adhan. He started telling him the adhan from the beginning to the end. So then he woke up and he went to the Prophet ﷺ and he told the messenger, "Oh messenger, I had this dream," and he said it from the beginning to the end. So when he finished telling him his dream, the Prophet ﷺ told Bilal, get up and you call the call to the salah. You be the one that calls the adhan. لأنه أندى صوتا. Why? Because he has a louder voice. Bilal had a louder voice and a more beautiful voice. So he taught Bilal, and Bilal called the prayer, the adhan. While Bilal was calling the adhan, Umar bin Khattab got out of his house and he's putting his izar, he's still putting his lower garment on. He's still dragging his garment, he's putting on. He said, "Oh Messenger of Allah, I just had a dream about the same adhan that you guys are calling to. I had the same dream." So this Sahabi Abdullah bin Abdurrazaq and Umar bin Khattab both had the dream, and then it became legislated. And the Prophet ﷺ, many a time, after Salat al-Fajr, he would turn around after the adhkar and the likes, he would ask the companions, "Did anyone have a dream last night?" Why? Because if they had a dream and he affirmed it, it became from the sunnah. So it was from the ways that the Prophet ﷺ would affirm some things. But after the Prophet ﷺ passed away, after Salat al-Fajr, do we start asking people after Fajr, "Hiya Jama'ah, we had a dream today"? No, that was specifically because of that illah, that reason. Okay? So the Prophet ﷺ, he told Bilal to get up and to call the adhan, طيب. So next hadith, that's clear. So that's how the adhan was established.
So is that both good dreams and bad dreams?
Ahsant. طيب. We're just talking about good dreams generally, but dreams in general, there are three types: good dreams, bad dreams, and dreams that don't have no meaning. So no meaning, we'll start with that one first. If someone is dreaming about some chocolate, he's talking about chocolate just before he slept and he was searching the best Belgium chocolate or something, then he goes to sleep and then he just has a crazy dream about chocolates. And that dream doesn't have no meaning because it's something that you were doing that day that you just dreamt about. But if you have a good dream or a bad dream, it's something that's got nothing to do with what you were doing. Okay, so you see a sign that a friend of yours, for example, dies in Medina. It's a good dream because he's dying in the city of the Prophet ﷺ. The city of the Prophet ﷺ, whoever dies in Medina, the Prophet ﷺ said, "I will be shafi'an lahu yawm al-qiyamah aw shahida." That I will be a intercessor for him on the day of judgment or a witness for him, whoever dies in Medina. Whoever is able to die in Medina, فَلْيَفْعَلْ, then let him. Not kill yourself, no. Meaning go to Medina, try to stay there as much as possible up until death comes to you. So that's a good dream, so you tell people. Or you had a dream that you had a child. After you can have children for many years, you had a dream that you had a child, you tell people those good dreams, the people that you love from your family members and friends. Bad dreams is anything that you were scared in or the likes, and your nightmare if you like. Then you don't tell nobody. And you blow to your left side 3 times and you seek refuge from the shaitan. A'udhu billahi min ash-shaytan. Min ash-shaytan ar-rajim. Is that clear? So that's the 3 types of dreams.
You know in the hadith mentions that Bilal behind he has a better voice. Person in the Shaykh, they say that you shouldn't do government and conclude the fault of the event. So
Yeah.
how do you reconcile that?
So there's a difference between saying your adhan out loud, beautifully, like for example the way that I was reciting, or when you recite Quran, that's no problem. But a person shouldn't, the ulama they mention, a person shouldn't do takalluf, meaning he burdens himself, he stretches it to the extent that he changes the letter, he changes the harf. Okay? So if he does any of that and he changes the meaning, then that's not allowed. But other than that, to beautify and to raise your voice with it, as long as you are saying the words properly, then it's allowed. Okay, one last question. Something that you had a nightmare about? Something, discomfort, meaning most likely it was something bad, right? You don't tell nobody. You don't tell nobody those dreams. And it's from khata, from the people that they have a bad dream and they start telling other people. You're not supposed to do that. Because the good dreams, the Prophet ﷺ said, is part of 64 parts of nubuwwah. prophethood. And good dreams, sometimes they occur. Is a bushra ajila, is a glad tidings that has been given to you early. That such and such is going to happen. It doesn't mean necessarily 100% is going to happen. And we don't act in accordance to the dreams that we change our whole life because of a dream, good or bad. Unless obviously you're involved in something haram and you see a dream that tells you to make tawbah and the likes, yeah, you should do that. But in terms of if someone has a dream and they say you should stop praying 5 daily prayers, you should pray 4, then you don't listen to that dream. وهكذا. Okay?
But someone was dreaming about a girl all night and then he had a dream that he married her and had kids, that good dream or another dream?
الله ask الشيخ إن شاء الله. طيب الحديث الثالث عشر, the 13th حديث. عن جابر بن عبد الله رضي الله عنهما قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إن بين الرجل وبين الشرك والكفر ترك الصلاة. Jabir ibn Abdullah رضي الله عنهما, his father was a companion as well, who died in the battle of Uhud, Abdullah ibn Haram. So he said, I heard the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam say, indeed between a man and between a man and kufr and disbelief, shirk and disbelief, is leaving alone the prayer, neglecting and abandoning the prayer. And this hadith is wa'idun shadid, is a severe warning for those people that don't pray some of their salawat. The Prophet ﷺ, he says, indeed between a man and shirk and kufr, disbelief, is leaving alone the prayer. In another narration it mentions the covenant between us Muslims and them, the disbelievers, is the prayer. Whoever leaves it, faqad kafar. Whoever abandons the prayer, then they have disbelieved. In here the scholars, they differ. Does disbelief take you outside the fold of Islam and you're not Muslim anymore? Or is it kufrun duna kufr? Kufr is 2 types. Major kufr, which takes you out of the religion of Islam. Minor kufr, which is a major sin but it doesn't take you out of the fold of Islam. Half of the scholars, they say yes, it takes you out of the fold of Islam. And half the scholars, they say no, it doesn't take you out of the fold of Islam, but it's a major sin. It's worse than killing someone. It's worse than zina to leave alone the prayer. The station of the prayer is high in Islam. It's only act of worship that was not revealed on earth. It was revealed not in the heavens either, above the 7 heavens, after Sidratul Muntaha. Allah Azza wa Jal spoke directly to the Prophet ﷺ in Isra wa Mi'raj and revealed to him the prayer. So this is the prayer, high station in Islam, the only action of worship that was revealed outside of earth. The person who leaves it alone and abandons it has disbelieved. Does that mean he's kafir, he's not Muslim? Half of the scholars, they say yes. And others, they say no, it's kufrun duna kufr, it's disbelief. Other than disbelief, meaning it's a minor kufr and it doesn't take you out of the fold of Islam. But either case, how evil is it that you leave off salah, and it's enough is to show how evil it is to leave off salah that you are in the middle of an argument. Is this person kafir or not kafir? You're in the equation. If so-and-so prays, he's a Muslim. If so-and-so doesn't pray, what does he equal? Kafir, or maybe not kafir. That equation alone is enough for you to start praying. That maybe you've left the fold of Islam in its entirety. 1 second, I'll come back to you. In its entirety, if you abandon the prayer. So the ulama ask, what is the qadr that is considered abandoning the prayer? And here we're talking about someone that leaves the prayer out of laziness. We're not talking about someone that says prayer is, that's something in the medieval times. That was 1,000 years ago, we don't pray anymore. The one that rejects it like that is kafir with ijma', consensus that he's a disbeliever. The one that says, I don't pray. My praying is I write letters. And I've heard that. I write letters to my God at night. That's what my praying 5 days of praying is. That person is kafir, is not Muslim. Aslan, he doesn't believe in salah. We're talking about someone that believes in the 5 pillars of Islam, but he leaves alone salah out of laziness or the likes. It doesn't matter what sins you're going through. It doesn't matter what kind of darknesses you're going through. You should never abandon the prayer. Prayer is the only time that's never excused. Even if you're sick, even if you can't pray standing, what do? You pray sitting down. Even if you can't pray sitting down, you have to pray what? Lying down. Even if you can't move anything, they say you still have to move your eyes or you pray with your heart. If you're in combat war and the enemy's in front of you, you don't pray, you still pray. If you're traveling, you still have to pray. The only prayer that is never the only thing that's never given an ease where you don't have to send out of laziness to leave salah to become a disbeliever on the opinion that you become a disbeliever. Some ulama, they say one prayer. If a person purposely misses one prayer out of laziness, I can't be bothered, I'm not praying. And that whole day is gone, and he didn't pray, not once, not one prayer, not two prayers, then ulama say he's a kafir. Others, they say the prayers of a day and a night. So 5 daily prayers, consecutively those 5 prayers, he didn't pray, then they say he's a kafir. Others, they say 3 days. And there are other statements as well. But as I said, it's enough that a person prays and knows the seriousness of not praying, that a person, that the ulama, they're arguing about, are you kafir or not kafir? What does that mean if you're kafir? If you're kafir, that means on the day of judgment, you're going to be with the kuffar. If you die, no one's going to pray over you. You're going to be buried in the cemetery of the disbelievers. You're not even a munafiq, you're a kafir. Clear cut. Is that clear? May Allah Azza wa Jalla protect us from that. There's a question there. The ulama that hold a person to be a disbeliever, they say you don't have to make up no prayers. You have to do shahada all over again. The ulama that hold that a person's a kafir, he has to say shahada again. Okay? The ulama that don't hold him to be a kafir, they hold him to be still a Muslim, but he's on a major sin. Even then, majority of ulama, they say he still can't make up those prayers. Because every prayer has got a waqt, it's got a specific time that begins and ends. If you miss that slot on purpose, you can never make it up. Sleep. We're going to talk about it. Inshallah. Was there a question here? Okay, khalas. Let's go to the next one. It's going to come inshallah. There's a specific hadith for now. Hadith number 14. عن أبي موسى الأشعري رضي الله عنه عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه أتاه سائل يسأله عن مواقيت الصلاة فلم يرد عليه شيء قال فأقام الفجر حين انشق الفجر والناس لا يكاد يعرف بعضهم بعضا ثم أمره فأقام بالظهر حين زالت الشمس والقائل يقول قد انتصف النهار وهو كان أعلم منهم ثم أمره فأقام بالعصر والشمس مرتفعة ثم أمره فأقام المغرب حين وقعت الشمس ثم أمره فأقام بالعشاء حين غاب الشفق ثم أخر الفجر من الغد حتى انصرف منها والقائل يقول قد طلعت الشمس أو كادت ثم أخر الظهر حتى كان قريبا من وقت العصر بالأمس ثم أخر العصر حتى انصرف منها والقائل يقول قد احمرت الشمس ثم أخر المغرب حتى كان عند سقوط الشفق ثم أخر العشاء حتى كان ثلث الليل الأول ثم أصبح فدعا السائل فقال الوقت بين هذين الوقتين وبين هذين in the riwayah. It's not in the Muslim al-waqtayn at the end. طيب. In short, the hadith is the Prophet ﷺ here is explaining mawaqitu salah, the prayer times for the 5 daily prayers, the beginning time and the end time. So in this narration, a man came to the Prophet ﷺ asking him about the times for the prayers. So the Prophet ﷺ never answered him with anything. And in it we benefit that if you don't have an answer for a question, do not waffle it, do not make it up. Stay silent or say Allahu A'lam, I don't know, or ask somebody else. Okay? The Prophet ﷺ himself would only speak with revelation. If revelation never came to him, what the Prophet ﷺ would do? He'd be quiet up until revelation comes to him. And so he mentions in another narration that Jibreel alayhi salam came to him and he prayed with him Salat al-Fajr, Salat al-Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha at the beginning of its time. And so he mentions that here as well. He mentions he prayed Fajr at the beginning of its time. As soon as the true Fajr al-Sadiq, the true breaking of the dawn starts, he prayed at that time. And in the Dhuhr, he prayed straight after, 10 minutes after the Zawal roughly, which is when the sun, Zawal, is dead in the middle. That's called the Zawal, when you don't have any shadow. And about 10 minutes later and you have a little shadow, that's the beginning of dhuhr. So he prayed dhuhr at that time. Then asr, if the sun is murtafi'atun, is high. And the ulama, some they say, to explain even more, that your shadow is the same length as you. That's the beginning of asr time. And maghrib, حين غاب الشفق أو عفوا حين وقعت الشمس, when the sun goes down, then that is maghrib time. And when the redness, so he prayed at the beginning of maghrib, and then when the redness in the sky goes away, then that is the beginning of Isha. So he prayed at the beginning time for each one. And then the next day, Jibreel came to him. In this other narration, Jibreel came to him at the end of each prayer. So he came to him Fajr, at the end of Fajr, just before sunrise, when the sun is about to come out. Then he came to him Dhuhr, almost when the sun was murtafi'atan, almost when it was Asr time. He prayed that time with him, Dhuhr. Then he prayed Maghrib or Asr, almost when the sun went down, or Kadat, it almost went down. And he prayed Isha in the first third of the night. The first third of the night. And so Jibreel, and in this narration he mentions, after Jibreel prayed those prayers with him, Prophet ﷺ, he said, Al-waqtu bayna hadaini, that the time for the salawat, for the 5 daily prayers, is between these two. Meaning, the beginning of dhuhr and the end of dhuhr is this time that I prayed on the first day, and this time I prayed on the second day. That's the start, that's the end. The end of dhuhr is the start of asr. The end of asr is the start of maghrib. The end of maghrib, when the shafaq goes away, is the start of Isha. And Isha, in this narration, is in the first third of the night, up until the first third of the night, and in other narrations, ila nisf al-layl, up until half of the night, roughly 12 o'clock, give or take. So these are the prayer times that we pray.
Maghrib, there's a difference of opinion. And basically, there's one opinion where it's around half an hour. So the redness in the sky that we see, that's fine. But then there's another opinion that says it takes 1.5 hours, for example. Another masjid, they said they went to a horizon.
So al-muhim, that's in minutes, right? The Prophet told us the signs for each one. So we look for the signs. إذا ذهب the shafaq, the redness of the sky, then that's the beginning of Isha time.
Is it from what we see from now?
Yeah.
Outside, Maghrib finished half an hour. But then in London, for example, Masjid Imam Mundhiri, they posted on Instagram. They said it shows here 1.5 hours, for example. So then al-ibra is with what we see. And so, in terms of from city to city, then you look from city to city. In terms of can we see from here or from not there, that's a different discussion. Right now we're talking about the Prophet ﷺ, in all of the ahadith, he says the redness of the sky is gone. When the redness of the sky goes, that's the time of Isha. Whether it's 30 minutes, whether it's 10 minutes, whether it's half an hour, the sign is the main thing. That's the main thing. Okay? أخرجه مسلم. Yeah?
When it came to like after about Salah, was like the first one, for example, on the day was there on Isha, like the Fajr comes in and
We're going to talk about, inshallah, joining the prayers and the likes. It's going to come in a different hadith. Okay, 14 minutes to Adhan. Give me 5 more minutes, inshallah. عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال من أدرك ركعة من الصلاة فقد أدرك الصلاة. Whoever catches a rak'ah, one rak'ah from the prayer, then he has caught the prayer. Meaning, man adraka, so there's 2 meanings here. First of all, if an imam is praying the salah, so we had salat al-asr, and you caught the end of the prayer, and the imam was in ruku', and you caught the ruku', that means you caught that whole rak'ah. So you had prayed at least 1. And then he says, Salaam alaikum, you repeat 3. If you come and he's in ruku' and you're still walking, and then he says, Sami Allahu liman hamida, he's got up from the ruku', that means you missed the ruku', that means you missed the whole rak'ah. That's the first meaning. So for individual prayer. Secondly, even if you are praying by yourself, and the times we said for salawat. So let's say the sun is about to go down and you haven't prayed Asr yet. You have to pray Asr. Praying that 1 rak'ah in time
means you caught the prayer. So let's say you caught the one rak'ah of Asr and the other 3 rak'at, you were still praying it, but the sun has already set. So Maghrib time has come. Did you catch the prayer? Did you not catch the prayer? You caught the prayer because you prayed at least 1 rak'ah in the salah time. So that's the 2 benefits we get from this hadith. طيب. And in some ulama they mention that the person that catches a rak'ah, then he catches the fadl, the virtue of the jama'ah as well. And that's what some ulama mention.
What about if a person purposely sort of just being lazy and then he prays and then he catches the rak'ah?
Allahu A'lam. Allahu.
Would a person still get
But tahawun fi salah hakada is something dangerous. That's praying with your religion. As we said, there's a difference between kufr and not kufr, and you're purposely. So imagine purposely and the time went out. And he's negligent. He's blameworthy.
What about, does the person still get the ajr if he misses the rak'ah, obviously accidentally, but he catches some of the jama'ah praying on the tashahhud or sujood, but it's the last rak'ah?
No. So it's a virtue of jama'ah. Some ulama say he catches the virtue of jama'ah, but some others say specific to the rak'ah. They has to catch the rak'ah. Alayhi salam wa rahmatullah. For to accept, he has to catch the rak'ah. Once he's caught the rak'ah, then that means he's caught the rest of the prayer. Even if the rest of, let's say he says Sami Allahu liman hamida, he goes to sujood. When he goes to sujood, the adhan went off. He caught the rak'ah.
Someone praying by himself.
Yeah, someone praying by himself. Yeah. Say again? Without Surah Al-Fatiha, your prayer is invalid, and the most correct opinion, you have to read it after the Imam, but there's some that say you don't have to repeat it, the Imam's recitation is okay. But if you go into rak'ah, you don't read it. That's the time there's ijma' that if you catch the prayer and the Imam's already in ruku', you don't say, let me read Fatiha quickly and catch him. No, you go straight to ruku'. Okay? Last question. When you go to ruku'. Hasant. So if you're going to ruku', you just said Allahu Akbar and he said Sami Allahu liman hamid, you never quote it. You have to be in ruku'. Okay? Next hadith. Al-hadith al-sabi' ashar. How much time left? Huh? The next 2 hadith are easy. عن عبد الله بن عمر رضي الله عنهما وابي هريرة رضي الله عنهما أنهما سمع رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول على أعواد منبره لينتهين أقوام عن ودعهم الجمعات أو ليختمن الله على قلوبهم ثم ليكونن من الغافلين. The Prophet ﷺ, he warned on his minbar. The minbar is like the minbar we have for khutbah. The Prophet ﷺ said, indeed, a group of people that continuously they miss and neglect the prayer on purpose, they will come to a stop. They will cease to missing their Jum'ahs, or Allah Azza wa Jal, He will put a khatam. Did I? Okay, subhanallah. Sifat al-Salah. We'll come back to Sifat al-Salah Sunday. Let's do these 2 short hadith. So he was on the minbar. He said, a group of people will cease to stop missing salawat. They will stop missing their Jum'ah, their Friday Jum'ahs, or Allah Azza wa Jal will put a khatam, will close their hearts. Will put a khatam in their hearts, ثُمَّ لَيَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الْغَافِلِينَ. Then they will be from the heedless. Allah Azza wa Jal tells us in the Quran, وَلَا تَكُن مِنَ الْغَافِلِينَ. Do not be from amongst the heedless. The one who purposely misses Jum'ah 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 3 times, they say that Allah Azza wa Jal will put a khatam, a seal on his heart, and he will be from the heedless. That's it. Ahsant. If you don't have excuse, and excuse is something like traveling that we don't have to pray Salat al-Jum'ah, or a person is sick, or the likes, they're in a surgery, something like this. But a person that's working every Friday that misses khutbah Jum'ah, that's not an excuse. He needs to pray Jum'ah. Okay? The next hadith. Hadith al-Thamin Ashar. Hadith number 18, the last hadith for today, inshallah. We'll come back for 16 on Sunday. عن جابر بن سمرة رضي الله عنه قال صليت مع رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم العيدين غير مرة ولا مرتين بغير أذان ولا إقامة أخرجه مسلم. Jabir ibn Samr radiallahu anhu, he said that I prayed with the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam the Eid prayer, the two Eid prayers, Eid al-Fitr, Eid al-Adha, on many occasions, more than once, and he never established the adhan or iqamah. So when you're praying the Eid prayer, there is no adhan, nor do you call the iqamah out. You pray without an adhan and without iqamah. طيب? And the Salat al-Eid, the two Salat al-Eid, they are performed in jama'ah, in congregation. So because it's performed in congregation, someone might think, okay, the 5 daily prayers we pray in congregation, the Jum'ah prayer we pray in congregation, we always call the adhan for it. Like, what about the Eid prayer we pray in congregation? Do I call the adhan for it? No. The Prophet from his sunnah not to call the adhan iqamah when he established and prayed the two Eid prayers. هذا والله أعلم وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد. اللهم اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات. اللهم اغفر لنا ما قدمنا وما أخرنا وما أسررنا وما أنت أعلم به منا. اللهم إنا ظلمنا أنفسنا ظلما كثيرا وأنت تغفر الذنوب جميعا فاغفر لنا مغفرة من عندك إنك أنت الغفور الرحيم. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين. أقول ما تسمعون واستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. And I will see you on Sunday inshallah. And for those that want the ijazah, they need to register online.
جزاه الله خيرا Sheikh Muhammad, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward him greatly inshallah ta'ala. And inshallah ta'ala ikhwani, today is Arafah day, so inshallah we're going to break our fast inshallah, so we have only water and dates inshallah ta'ala bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. So we have few minutes left. Today is Friday and it's also Yom Arafah, so this could be the last hour, so make sure that Ashura, so make sure that inshallah ta'ala you pray and make dua inshallah ta'ala. This